Fantastic. Love it. Oh my goodness. So it's so nice to be doing this in Minnesota because everybody is just so nice about getting moved around. All right. So Mark, you had a person who is possibly going to be our first guest today. Did he actually want to come on and go first? Mhm. Oh yeah. All right. Narrative game, and then Mark LaCroix back in the saddle working on another game. I am very excited to see what this is all about. Also, you're working on a narrative game. You still hold the title of the person who made the best looking text box that I've ever seen. So I'm very excited for this. Okay, so I may have been a big dum dum head here. I actually connected to Icebox. Is that correct? Oh, okay. Okay, slightly less of a dum dum head. We'll see. Fabulous. Ooh, such a big mouse. Cool. Arts Council of England. That's cool. Nice. Okay, okay. A little bit of that Bojo money in your pocket. Very nice. All right, new game. Mhm, mhm, mhm. Ooh, it's so cool. All right. Yeah. Oh, baby. Mhm. Oh, I can scroll. Cool. Oh, wait, and it's kind of a spider web. Ooh. Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, let's go. Can I use keyboard here for anything? No. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. Let's talk to good old Hazik. Reports coming in. Wow, those were some fast reports. Did I click on that wrong? Let's see. There we go. Hazik and Sharif see the atrocity unfold live on television. Whoa. Okay. I don't know what this incident is. Hazik felt like a passenger, a spectator, absent-mindedly going through the motions of his routine without really thinking about any of it. His family used to gently joke about how much he prided himself in order and organization. He wonders when he'll return to that level of calm and predictability. No more surprises. The last few days have been tough on him, and as the days slowly merged together, the bags under his eyes grew larger. Ooh, relatable. Hazik was weary. Um, Tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. Sharif, though, she was something else. Where he'd floundered, she'd thrown herself into activity. Busy hands and a busy mind meant distraction, exerting a form of control over something she had little actual control over, perhaps. His wife possessed an uncanny ability to extract any minuscule positives. Is this a game about Mark and Dale LaCroix during the inevitable troubling times that the Awans, or any family, of course, faced? This felt different, though, over the last few days, just as it had been for Hazik. That constant light she brought into the world had begun to dim ever so slightly. It felt like her hope was fading, almost imperceptibly, with each passing day and each passing discovery. Thoughts? Yes. Oh, we need that as a sound effect in the background of this game. By the way, should I be hearing any sound from the game itself? Sure, gotcha. All right. Time passed. Hazik followed his routine. He'd arrived home, or at least into his driveway, where he sat quietly in the car as it ticked and creaked after the drive home. This was part of his routine, too, a tiny window of what used to be a brief moment of contemplation before leaving work Hazik behind and becoming home Hazik again. Not anymore. Oh, interesting. Okay. I wonder why that's taken away from him. That's very relatable. That's something that I definitely do to transition. Now, this short window of time was just another component of the routine he felt compelled to follow until the near unfathomable weight of this situation, very ominous, had relented, if it ever would. All right. Uh-oh. That would make it a bit of a bummer.
Okay, now we should be on stream.
Okay. Well, fortunately, we probably had enough time on each of these screens for people to read it if they wanted to for themselves.
Yeah, one more. Just getting set up here again. Sorry for the delay.
Mark, are you doing primarily the UI for this?
I'm consulting a little bit, but mostly it's the stuff in these interactive scenes that you're really not going to get even a peek at really in this version, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But one of the things that did appeal to me with the game is it has a lot of this sort of it has some similar design sensibilities. The lead designer on it has been really good about having this sort of consistent tone for a lot of the visuals, and a lot of what you're going to see is just these simple text scenes, so there's not literally a lot going on, but it has a kind of a strong theming. And then a lot of times I'll work with developers, or I am a developer like this, where I'll design something and I'll design it with an eye towards implementation, because I'll be doing both. This is a case where a lot of the design work is then handed off to Dan, who'd been putting together a lot of the pieces, and me putting together a lot of the other ones. So sometimes there's a little bit of like refining at the edges and making sure it works in the framework. But it's been really fun being part of this project, because normally what I do is everything on a game. But here I'm just a hired hand, and it's kind of nice just to slot into like a really well-functioning team. And
have I
and not have to worry about things that normally I worry about,
Yeah. So you don't have to do a lot of like converting to other languages, or just handling like little Unity things you don't care about.
No, and this game is developed in Haxi, which is what I'm developing Noble Robot, or Metro Nexus in. So that was one of the reasons why I came out of the project, because Dan was looking for someone with OpenFL, which is the framework that's written in Haxi. That's based on the old Flash API, and he's like, anybody have any familiarity with that? And I'm like, well, I'm working on a big project with it now. I'd love to take a peek. And it ended up being it was easy for me to onboard, and there's funding, but it's arts funding, so there was someone who needed to be able to hit the ground running, and that was me.
Yeah. What a great story! What a great story of something that you just picked up recently, like immediately coming to be useful for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Lane, can I ask why you picked Hazik as your first?
Why I picked it?
Yeah.
Honestly, because the name was the most interesting out of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
The
characters are good names.
When you start out, you have this sort of fanned out group of scenes, and that's something to ask Dan about. Is should the player feel like should I pick one at random, or should they be guided towards one or another based on any particular feelings about themselves? Or when you click one, you get the short description before you enter into it. I know that the idea of it being multiple choices is sort of like multiple storylines. I think the intention is to make it feel like when you start out, you have no idea why you pick a scene. And it isn't until
100%.
that you start building up the web that you start to have like opinions about what you want to see next,
100%. The other thing is, I wonder if Hazik will end up being the most common just because he's in the upper left, and I didn't see any reason to do anything else. So yeah, easier to keep track that way.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay. But anyway, this narrative so far, I props to the writer. That's Dan doing the writing here.
Yeah, Dan Head. He's
seeing the classic formula elements. I have this trail of breadcrumbs, a little mystery to guide me along. I'm digging it so far. It's competently done.
Mm-hmm.
A relatable character.
Yeah, exactly. Tying into little moments in my life, making me wonder, what would make me stop seeing that as like a nice transitional moment?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Oh, I'm gonna start having to call you work lane and home lane.
Yeah, you only know party lane. Anyway, contemplation time complete. Hazik ventured from corridor to front door, shoulders low, as he opened the door and readied himself for the inescapable silence that he had become accustomed to over the last few days since Yassine vanished from their lives. What greeted him was genuinely shocking, rattling him out of the bleary cold and into life. For the first time in days and days, their house was filled with voices and talking, laughter, real, rich belly laughs, murmurings, and conversation, clinking teacups, the smell of food cooking, light, life. He called out tentatively, "Sharif? Hello?" Hazik inquired again as he edged closer to the door, behind which lay the source of the energy that had seemingly manifested itself unbidden in his kitchen. "We're in here, my love." There was a pleasant lilt to Sharif's voice. It was welcoming sound. It had been some time since his wife's voice rang out with musicality and life toward him. He looked around. He surveyed the scene, not quite believing. Auntie Asma and a few other elders, that nickname did never become unstuck, had joined Sharif for what appears to be several rounds of tea, judging by the cups of detritus littering the table, along with a dazzling array of everything from chocolate digestives to coconut barfies, Auntie Asma's favorites. They were quite clearly just recovering from a shared fit of laughter, wiping tears from eyes and shaking heads. He glanced back into the hallway. Man, now I've got two mysteries. What the? Of course, Hazik finally noticed the array of shoes and slippers and sparkly pumps lined up respectfully on the floor at the doorway. He walked pazzy without noticing, always a sign that the elders were in attendance. No shoes in the house. But apart from that, please make yourself at home, aunties. They were so loud that initially Hazik didn't even notice that the TV was on. The elders typically left it on in the background as filler while they caught up on their recent gossip. The show of that retiree who went around solving murderies was on once again. Hazik had seen this episode before. It was the gardener who did it. It was always the gardener.
One
Say
mystery
hello.
Introduced and immediately solved. The gardener did it.
Salam, Auntie Asma. I wasn't interrupting anything important, was I? Hazik also noticed his cadence pick up slightly, though he wouldn't admit it. It was nice having someone else around here, even if it wasn't Yassine. Don't worry, Hazik. We were just going through some of the old photos that my nephew took on his trip to Lahore. She wiped a tear from the corner of her eye with her mustard scarf. In her hand was a pile of printed photos, with more scattered on the table to be passed around. Sharif had clearly been laughing too. We were just laughing at this picture of Yaqub. You know, Auntie Mevish's eldest? He looks like the spitting image of you. Sharif handed the photo over for Hazik to review. He looked at the photo. Looking back at him was a smiling, mustachioed young man standing proudly behind his Yamaha motorbike. Before he could mention the slight resemblance he noticed, Auntie Asma found an opportunity to share the joke with Hazik. But he is half his age, so it's only natural that he's half your weight. The cackling erupted once again. Hazik puffed up his chest to hide the obvious belly pouch that was a relatively prominent shape underneath his checkered shirt. Honestly, Hazik's reprimand was only half-hearted. He was happy to see Sharif distracted and, well, happy. It felt good to be a part of it. A little, just for now. A few hours pass. Asma and the others had finally left. After having their fill of sweet treats and gossip, no doubt, this unexpected meeting of the minds had done its job. Sharif was still in a good mood, singing as she was chopping the onions for dal curry in the kitchen. He couldn't remember the last time he'd heard her sing. Hazik sat at the table, watching the little television. The news was on. Strange, it wasn't time for the...
Uh-oh.
I don't like the look of this button. He read the banners scrolling underneath the newsreader. The volume... Dale, is your going to be in the game? Still low and impossible to hear, over Sharif cooking and singing. He watched carefully, reading a few times as the words looped across the screen. Breaking news. Explosion in Hartwich. Fatalities. Live. Oh no. The reporter continued to speak, the image silent underneath the noise of the kitchen. Hazik was frozen in place, eyes continually scanning the words. Explosion in Hartwich. Police to issue statement. Live. The knot in his stomach tightened. Fear and revulsion swarming around him silently, while he outward said and did nothing except watch and watch, unable to speak. Blissfully unaware, Sharif continued to move around the kitchen, in and out of cupboards, singing delicately while her husband sat and quietly inwardly fell to pieces as he understood the meaning of what he was seeking. Oh, so there was some sort of an incident before this, and then they have like 2 seconds of happiness, and then something happens? Or is this a
Yes.
flashback? I'm intrigued.
I think it's a second instant.
Oh, geez, Dale. Don't break my heart like that. The screen changed
also,
as he watched.
It was the butler or the gardener, depending on the era in which you're watching a murder
Butlers
mystery.
always cause explosions. I hate that about them. Footage was being shown now. Blurry smartphone video, flashing blue lights, shattered shop fronts, ambulances speeding through the streets. Hazik was unable to utter a single word as he felt Sharif's hand rest on his shoulder, finally noticing the news report that had so transfixed her husband. She sat and watched. The pan on the hob bubbled over, hissing on the stove as she wailed. Oh no! It ends there. Oh man. So we get like a lot of teasing, and then we probably get to click on this. Oh no, we've unlocked some more stuff over here. Ooh, whoa.
Oh, it's really far over there.
Holy smokes. Is it worth it? New street. Well, that almost suggests that I kind of don't want to go over there, you know?
Yeah, you sort of think about like what does space mean in on this scene?
Yeah.
Like,
Good question.
Like how are the scenes organized? And it's sort of a tease to it's like do we want to learn more about things that are close to the incident? And what does close even mean, you know?
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow. And this is really I was thinking that we might be able to get like a few of these and then incident and the pieces would all come together. But scrolling through this whole thing makes me realize, oh my God, this is a huge story.
Yeah, it's hundreds of thousands of words. Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay. What are you going to choose next?
Oh boy, yeah, yeah. Bit culture is 100% right. Jason, why don't you choose? Do you want us to go to continue on Hazik's story, or should we go with another one here? I'll look for the chat to guide this. How much materia do you need to unlock all the nodes? Oh my God, Ben.
Well, if you're like me, you just need to use the unlock compiler statement, and then then you can get them all.
All right. Bit culture is suggesting that we keep going with Hazik. Now, here's the problem. Look at the size of this thing. Yeah, I know you got to know. I got to know too. But the problem is it's going to leave us with like 5 more questions. I guarantee it. So I am noticing at least in this crazy parsec environment, it's very easy to close and then open it.
Huh.
Or
Are you,
open and
you
close
Wait,
in one click.
their
Um,
first house in Hartwich? Isn't that the place?
Huh?
Hartwich is the city.
Yeah, no, but like, where was the second I'm doing air quotes incident?
The news report said explosion in Hartwich.
Yeah.
So the impression I'm getting is that it happened nearby. It's happening nearby in that last scene.
Okay, here we go.
So we're going
All
back
right.
in time, you think? We'll find out.
Ooh. Yeah. What does space mean? Maybe left is further in the past? Who knows?
Could just mean further away time-wise. It could mean physically further away in a different house.
Interesting.
I don't know.
All right, let's do one more before we go on to Bits game. Actually, we can keep going as long as you want. I definitely am having fun with this one. It's a warm day.
Narration.
It's a warm day, but thankfully there's a breeze. Hazik winced at the idea of trying to move into a new house with your whole family on a hot day. Ooh, so maybe it is in the past. Looks like they got away with it today. A rare occasional where the British weather being so chilly is actually quite helpful. Assad Bai was driving the van for them, with Yassine in the front. Oh, definitely in the past. With Yassine in the front, Hazik followed carefully with the wife in his second-hand Honda. There was something quite nerve-wracking about Assad Bai's driving. Hazik found himself calculating the cost of all the valuables in the back of the van as he imagined them being knocked around at every sharp turn, bouncing slightly too fast over every speed bump. He sighs with relief. They've reached their new home. His wife looks at him, putting her hand on his. We made it. Sharif almost whispering the words, smiling at him. He had told her a week before that if Assad Bai didn't kill them, then Yassine would. Hazik smiled for the first time to, I wonder if something happens to Yassine here and then something happens to Assad in the incident? He smiled for the first time today as he parked expertly into a small gap in the road. Yeah, you get good at that. He was very proud of his ability to park perfectly into any tight space and made a point to find the smallest one on the road. Yeah, I know. This is the most relatable character. He watched as Assad Bai attempted to back into a large space and take several turns and retries before getting it right. He wondered if he should have told Yassine to get out of the car first. He needed to put more trust in other people. Assad Bai knows how to park. Of course he does. As he thinks this, he watches it precariously park too close to the car behind it. He can feel his foot go down on the brake in his own car, and he's tensed up. Whoever is writing this is an expert. Like, there is so much that just draws you into the experience of this character. Yeah. I love it. Hayar, what are you doing? What is he doing? Sharif is watching wide-eyed. Hazik starts waving panicked at the van, watching it get closer and closer to the innocent little mini sitting comfortably behind it. Assad Bai abruptly hits the brakes and, with the van slightly askew, stops the engine and jumps out of the car with a satisfied grin on his face. Honestly, Assad Bai turns to Hazik and his smile drops. Hazik is still in the car, arms in the air. What was that? Shaking his head in annoyance, Yassine jumps out of the car and walks to the front of the house, his hands on his hips and examining the decor. He looks unimpressed and turns to watch his parents get out of the car. His mom is still sitting in the front, fiddling with her bag, grabbing plastic bags from the back seat and fumbling with too many items on her lap. Yassine turns back to the house and stares at the window on the second floor, wondering if that's his room. He would prefer a view to the garden, but he knows his place in the pecking order. He'll get what he's given. Hazik gets out of the car. Closing the door behind him. Yeah. Ben, you just need to do it more. Closing the door behind him, he looks around the street. Across the road, he sees curtains twitch. He thought he saw a woman looking out, but he wasn't so sure. Maybe it was a cat. He wonders why he always thinks the best of people. They were a Muslim family moving into a predominantly white neighborhood. There were bound to be some twitchy curtains. He sighed at the thought of the future racism that they would possibly face and looked over at Yassine. The boy was getting older now, and he was sure he'd faced it already. He hated that he couldn't protect him from it. His wife began to pull herself out of the car, holding far too many bags. Azad Bai is opening the back of the van. Time to get into action. Moving all their belongings was going to be a long process. His wife was a hoarder, and he couldn't bring himself to tell her to leave things behind that reminded her of their motherland. Even though he knew they were priceless objects,
Pointless.
they take up way too much space. They just make her so happy. Oh, pointless objects. Pointless objects.
If they were priceless, you'd probably bring him and then not let them in Scene's car.
Yeah, he'd probably be a tiny bit more chill. Help your uncle out. Hazik lowered his voice after yelling his son's name. He was so used to yelling at him, but had to remember where he was. Yazin was still staring at the house. Hazik wondered if there was something wrong with his son. He seemed so odd sometimes. He saw Yazin walk toward the van and then stop in his tracks, looking past Hazik. Is this him being weird again, he wondered? He looked behind him at the house opposite theirs, and a white man and his wife were standing at the door, looking at them. Hazik's heart pounds slightly faster. He hopes it won't happen. Not now, at least. They just got here. Hey. The man yells across the street to them. Hazik notices a smile on his face. His wife, though, was expressionless. Hello? Hazik gives a slight wave. The man walks across the road looking both ways at the completely empty and silent street as an act of obedience and jogs toward the car, still in his slippers. Hello, mate. I'm Cliff. Nice to meet you. You just moving in, huh? Lovely house. We knew the people in there before. Wow, I'm immediately giving up on this accent. Absolute shut-ins. Weird as hell. You're not going to be like that, are you?
Okay, that was definitely
Apparently
an
I can do
Australian
beginning of
accent.
sentences.
Yeah, there was a little bit of like Alabama in there too. Like
I can do beginning of sentences with an Australian accent, but I can't do the end of sentences. The man says this with the biggest smile. See, British people don't have the biggest smile. He's clearly an Australian person who moved in. Eyes directly focused on
Way
Hazik.
to retcon that.
Hazik introduces his family. No, we're very welcoming. Oh, it's nice to be here. Hazik motioned to his wife and Yazin. This is my wife, Sharif, and over there is my son, Yazin. Say hello, Yaz. Yazin says nothing, but nods. Sharif smiles and says a quick hello, still holding too many bags. She begins to fumble her walk toward the house. Yazin watches, but doesn't think to help. Hazik furrows his brow. Cliff seems satisfied. I don't want to do more. Well, mate, if you need anything, me and the missus will throw another prawn on the barbie. He nods back to the window where his wife waves faintly from the living room. Honestly, don't hesitate to ask. I'll give you a lift with the boxes, but I have a bad back, you know. Getting old, haha. Cliff surveys the scene, noticing the box in the van with a cricket bat sticking out. Okay, I told you guys, there's too many clues. Out of the top and raising an eyebrow. Seemingly happy he's done with his neighborly duty, Cliff trots back to his house, while Hazik waves faintly. Cliff seems satisfied with his Vegemite. I love it. All right. That was painless? He'll take it. It wasn't painless for me. He turns and looks at his family. Sharif is picking up a bag she dropped while clutching all the others. Azad Bai is standing at the back of the van, staring at their belongings instead of moving any of them, scratching his head in confusion. Hazik looks over to his son again, who is staring at the house, hands on his hips. So weird. All right. Well, yeah, so definitely getting some clues about what space may mean. Nothing conclusive yet. Definitely very curious about this incident, but we probably would have to unlock quite a bit to get there. So, yeah, what do you think? Should we discuss this a little bit and then move on to Bitscan?
Yeah, it's tough to a game like this just eats a lot of time in order to get a real good sense of it.
Oh yeah,
but we can just sort of breeze through a couple of these just to kind of see how.
Sure.
How it. So here this is a. So there's the main characters in the game, and then there are these sort of extra scenes that are, in this case, like kind of NPCs. And you've noticed also that there's not a lot of choices to make in a lot of these scenes. it's sort of judiciously handled. Every now and again, you'll get a choice, and the game does in fact have multiple endings.
Whoa!
But it's very kind of, you kind of have to, you get really invested in the story, and then you make little choices along the way that are, my understanding anyway, because I have not played through the whole thing, is they're mostly inconsequential, but like you don't always know. And then at the end, there are, at certain points along the story, there are bigger choices that have an impact.
So far, I don't think that I came into any choices other than like choosing which one. Oh, here are some choices.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Ooh.
And you see some of these are short, and then it depends on, you unlock certain different scenes, and you get to kind of choose where you go from where, and like what about, like with Hazik, like, okay, we want to learn more about his family, or do we want to learn more about what's happening now, and that determines which way you go. And so it's even less about the mechanics of the application and more about you as a player making choices kind of just in your own head, and that is gameplay, which I find really fascinating. And so it doesn't overwhelm you with things that are not that,
I love that you can see these like little tiny bits, like tiny little clues of what the conversations are going to be about.
Yeah.
Like there is so much. There is like so many interrelated mysteries in here. I could absolutely seeing this as the sort of game that I would just like. It would sort of like gnaw at the back of my mind, and I would like want to dip in a little bit every day. This is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I really want there to be a Cliff one, just so we can hear more of that.
You want to hear more about Cliff, right?
More of that ridiculous Australian accent.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Cliff appears more in Hazik's stories, in that thread that we opened early on. But yeah, you do kind of wonder, right?
Ooh, why is this over here?
If only we had read the...
Yeah.
Oh, that's like just halfway there. Almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems as though there's two ways the story will take you. It'll take you further down a path, or it'll rewind the tape, to give you context. And then it peppers in these extra scenes that give more context and are sort of connected in certain ways.
Ooh, the break-in, spooky.
But yeah, I think next month we'll try to get the interactive stuff that I've been working on this past month playable too, because there's some UX stuff that I want to put in front of people before I'm super happy, saying it's finished. But there's lots of fun storytelling elements there where like the desktops have like, you're looking at Hazik's computer, and so you can browse his files, and there's these little elements where like we just call them modals, where little highlights as you move your mouse around, you get these little extra bits of like inner dialogue if you click on a certain spot. And then you can have like chat conversations, which play out a lot like these scenes do. But then some in those interactive scenes, like there are multiple ways to get to the end, but you can stick around and explore more of it. So it's a lot of like just world building and context to go into that stuff, and just building the structure for it has been interesting. But a lot of the content still needs to be added. Whereas with these story scenes that are here, a lot of that writing is done. Although there's some, notice a typo or two, there's still some copy editing, and I think there's probably still a couple more scenes left to put in there, but it's a couple of writers, and it's just a ton of content. And so I think a lot of times narrative, and Lane, you've worked with narrative games. There's a push and pull between like how do you keep people engaged, like or do you give them like a full novel's worth of content, or do you hit the brakes a lot to give them choices and streamline things? It's like it's tough to decide how to balance this stuff, right?
Yeah, it is a never-ending challenge. But I mean, the thing that kind of cuts through that is if you have the mastery that these people seem to. I mean, they seem extremely skilled, at least in what I've seen so far. I mean, there are people who pump out 100,000 words in a month. So like it is a surmountable challenge. But yeah, like you're always between those wolves of like, do I want to have a longer game, give people like more for their money in that way, or be able to weave a more complex story? Or do you want to have the concentration of like extremely high quality, no matter which way I choose to go? Because you've really concentrated your forces.
Yeah, right. Because there's like story pacing, and then there's gameplay pacing, and then this is the mix of both. And there's some things you can't predict as a writer, how a player approaches it. And this game in particular the story is told at the discretion of the player.
Oh, that's what I love about it. Like
much more than most visual novels, and so
you got it.
It's a unique challenge.
You got it. I mean, that's what I'm really digging about this. I mean, it's very somewhat similar to like a choose your own adventure, but much more. I don't know. It's just like anything that I want to learn about, I can just kind of go in that direction. I think that I haven't seen that before. Very intriguing. Very intriguing. I like it a lot.
Yeah. The choices are less about how the story goes and more about how the story is revealed to you, which is sort of interesting. All right. Well, more on this next month. I can hope.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I wonder. So like, there certainly are plenty of films that like play around with the different ordering of storytelling. And I wonder, like, when people play in this, like for example, like Memento goes like front to back. The anime Bakano is basically told in a random feeling order, but like different like it's doled out so that there's like certain keystones that put things into place once per episode. I wonder if these people feel as though there's any like better or worse way to get the story. Like one thing I would be concerned about is if I like have a few characters that I'm interested in and go in their direction, then I am basically saving the worst for last in a way, and I'll have a concentration of stuff that I'm not interested in at the end, which I don't know if that's really a problem, but it's definitely the first thing I think of.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I mean, like TV shows are like this, where they have like a cast of characters to service, and then there's like fan favorite characters, and then there are characters nobody likes, but they're like pivotal to the plot or the premise, and so you're kind of just that sort of dead weight, and so really it's just your job to make everything interesting. Like it's kind of that simple.
Oh man!
Right? And like if you go off in one direction because that's what's interesting to you in the moment, but then whatever you left behind is also interesting. So when you get around to it. That's the hope anyway.
I mean, so far, just based on what I've been seeing, it certainly seems as though if there was a character I wasn't interested in, I would have they've built up already a certain degree of faith that it will be worth going there and that it will become interesting later.
Yeah. I will. So the characters in the game they all come from different backgrounds. The part of the structure of telling their stories separately is that they all have different perspectives on a shared event, right? Which is a terrorist attack in a British town, and some of them are closer to it than others, and they experience it in different ways. So, and we think about this a lot in from an American perspective. We think about this like people say, "Where do you remember where you were on 9/11 or whatever, or in Britain on 7/7 or similar, or more recently when you heard about 1/6, if we're going to call it that." And then your relation to it can be kind of almost beside the point, or it could be like, oh, I knew someone who was close to it, or oh, I was, if I had made a different choice, I might have been caught up in it or whatever. And each of those perspectives, you can combine them to tell the whole story. And so that's what I really like about it is like in the map there, you can't click on the incident because that's not part of the story. Right. You click on everybody as they relate to it, and some of the characters do interact with each other. And there's as the story gets further and further, that there is heightened drama on different scales. But then because it's sort of nonlinear, you get to kind of go back and just get a fuller picture of them, and so that it gives context to later actions. Which is, I don't know, it's really compelling, and I think it justifies how lengthy it is, because I think when I was first sort of toying with it as I was getting it set up on my end and walking through some of the things, I was like, oh, I don't know if people have the patience for scenes that are this long or that are this removed from the main plot. And I think there's going to be a matter of taste to that, but I think that once you get through the second scene, I think whatever scenes you do, I think it earns it. You sort of settle in like, oh, you understand now, and you're not like hoping to unlock the next thing, if that makes sense. But I guess mileage may vary on that. I don't know. I'm really curious to see how people react when it's further out there, and when more people get a chance to spend real time with it in testing.
So
I totally. Oh shoot! We should get in Ben Burns like ASAP here.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, What's the next game up, and what other games do we have tonight?
Oh man, so tonight I like could not be happier with our things here. Yeah, let's jump Ben on here, get him in. Let me promote Ben right away so we can get him. But Ben just recently ran a game jam of his very own called OST Jam, where I think he provided the music, and then people made games based on that music. So I'm gonna promote him real quick.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask, what does OST stand for?
Original soundtrack.
Nice.
There we go. Hey Ben.
How's it going?
So Dale, did you want to play this game?
I am unsure about my controller situation. What is
It's mouse
this?
only.
Fantastic. I can definitely use a mouse.
Yeah. Sorry,
Alright.
I don't mean to like change the schedule around or anything.
No,
I
you're
just
not
realized
changing
that
the schedule
Okay.
around. I was about to jump in and say, hey, what do we have coming up?
Also,
So-
if you have to bounce, we can keep playing your game.
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. That's
Okay.
true.
Yeah, but
So-
it would be awesome for you to give a little intro on it.
Yeah, sure. I'm more than happy to talk about the OST jam, which is ending in like 6 hours as well. Which is it's the first time that I've run a game jam, and it's been a ton of fun. So I help run a music challenge called the 2-hour album challenge every couple months, and during that challenge we have a listening party at the end of it, and everybody's always like, oh man, this would be great for a video game, or oh man, I can totally see this in a dungeon. And I decided to finally just kind of make a game jam out of the music that's generated through this other music event. So the music in Pawndamonium, as well as all of the other games in the OST jam, are like the only stipulation is you have to use the music that comes from the this big zip file full of music that people made over the prior weekend. And yeah, I'm super excited to keep this kind of trend going, where next time we do the 2-hour album challenge, we'll just run a game jam after it, and that's kind of how it goes. So
And
Pawndamonium-
I'm so down with what Bit Culture is saying right now. Should get down
oh yeah,
on that. Yes. I think centered around music is good because, like, God, music is just, it punches so far above its weight class in terms of the impact it has on jam games, and structuring one around that seems like it would produce fantastic stuff.
Yeah, and I've never really seen another jam. I've seen lots of game jams that are just like, yeah, here's an asset pack that everybody has to use, or here's a certain idea, but I've never really seen anything that revolves around music. And like you said, music's so integral to making games in general, but especially when it comes to game jams, people have a lot of struggles sometimes making music or making music happen for it. So I should talk about my game real quick. So Pawndamonium is a chest-based tower defense game where you have to spawn pawns at the bottom of your board to defend against the onslaught of enemy pawns that are slowly creeping towards your base, basically. It's a game jam game, so obviously there's some technical limitations on what we can do, but I'm really kind of proud of how this kind of came together over the course of about 1 week of development. So you essentially spawn pawns, and every time the turn advances, you get material, which you can use to upgrade your units, or you can use to kind of protect your base. So if you click on any of the pawns, you get that options menu to upgrade a pawn into something else. And that's kind of how it goes from there.
That sounded really bad, like I was losing. Ooh, I could make a queen.
Yeah, no, you're doing
Let's
fine.
do
It's
that.
just I realized that the game is actually playing, and I wanted to talk about it real quick. But yeah,
sorry, I started. I wanted to know how many songs were available for this? Did you get a lot of people picking the same songs?
I honestly don't know yet. I haven't really gone through the submissions. I want to kind of play them all fresh when the challenge is done. But the 2-hour album challenge had a total of 66 submissions, and I think about 60 of them decided to participate in the OST jam as well. So there was a zip file of like 60 original songs that people got to choose from, which is like, it kind of blew my mind. I was not expecting that kind of turnout, or people to be that forthcoming with like their content or their music. So that like really blows me away, and I'm super proud of the community to, you know, be able to contribute and just be a part of something not more interesting, but, you know, something different, something new.
Props at the very least for managing to combine your hobbies and interests in a synergistic way. That is wicked.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was completely inspired by the 2-hour album challenge chat, because it's just one of those things where people suggested something. I'm like, man, that is a good idea, but can I actually do that? I've never run a game jam before, and thankfully it's pretty low impact. Like, Itch handles the bulk of the work. Nice. So it's kind of just me just making sure that the wheels don't fall off the server. What was that?
Do you get to pick a winner of the game jam?
You can, but I choose not to really worry about winners and losers in this kind of stuff. It's the same thing with the music challenge, where we're not making music as a competition. We're making music to kind of learn and better ourselves as musicians, as a community.
That would be really hard.
Yeah.
I like this genre, so you're my top pick.
Voting for the best or something like that, it tends to just create drama, and that's really kind of what I want to avoid. So really, we all
right now.
Yeah. What difficulty level did you start on? You're doing really well.
I picked casual because I know how not to make it hard.
No, that's fine. Like I was kind of with the whole thing about accessibility lately. I tried to choose difficulty levels that aren't like, you suck, this one's okay, and like, you know, super hard or whatever. So it's like I wanted to be like, yeah, this is like casual mode or relaxed mode. And then I think there's like a mode that's just no, because it's really hard. But I was just kind of messing around. I didn't really know what to do.
No mode.
Yeah, exactly.
I do like that you can't have more than 2 rooks or 2 bishops or 2 knights.
Yep.
Oh, that's why.
Yep, I tried.
Like, it's
I tried
ostensibly
very hard to keep it
sort of a chess
consistent
game.
Yeah, exactly. With the rules of chess, like, you can only have 1 queen. You'll notice that the material number for each piece, like rooks are worth 5 points. Bishops and knights are worth 3. Queens are worth 9. I kind of kept all of that. I don't think that it really fits the balance of the game, really. So I might change that at some point.
Is that like the for like scoring in chess?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most people are not familiar with it, but that is a fun. You know what I mean? You could change those numbers and they would believe that that's what they were.
Oh yeah. But I recently got more into chess. Yeah, you have to click cancel and then you can click another piece. Sorry, I'm a little behind on the stream. But yeah, I recently got into chess a little bit more, which I think a lot of people have during the lockdown and stuff.
Yeah, it's gotten huge, especially like blitz chess numbers are like up like 6 or 7 times over the last 6 months. It's insane.
Yeah. So
I would like to state for the record that I do not like chess.
Well,
because
maybe you like
it
the
is
power defense version of it.
Yes, because it is boring and slow moving, and I picked speed slow, and this still isn't bad. So
well, I'm
I
glad
approve of this version.
Yeah, I'm glad. I have a lot of fun with chess, but I don't like playing against other people. So I mostly just play against bots, which is fine for me. I'll play against friends, but like playing against random people on the internet is just like not. I tend to get too competitive. But yeah, to answer your question, Lane. Yeah, based on material. Yeah, I know. I use those numbers. I use those numbers to just kind of put arbitrary values.
Oh,
in there.
yeah, no, that like as a chess like not aficionado, I'm terrible at it, but like as a fan, those numbers were like valuable to me. If they were any different, it would seem wrong. So yeah, I think you did the right thing.
What?
Well, good.
I just didn't want our innocent viewers to go away with a impression that chess has a scoring system. No,
Yeah.
you win or you lose. No, if the Russian judge is having a bad day, you will still win or lose based on whether you win or lost.
Yeah. There's no win state in Pawndamonium right now. It's mostly just play until you lose. So if a black pawn reaches your bottom row or your bottom rank, I guess if you want to use the proper term, if a black pawn reaches the bottom rank, it basically kills the tile, so you're not able to use it anymore to spawn more pawns. So it makes the game considerably more difficult the more tiles you lose at the bottom.
Good thing I picked casual.
Yeah.
Feeling great.
So I don't. The game does get like slightly more difficult every wave. So eventually it'll become overwhelming and you'll lose. It's kind of one of those score attack games right now. But yeah, it's just kind of I had a lot of fun with it. I kind of worked on it over the course of a week, and that's kind of it. I'm really proud of it though.
Yeah, I mean, if we wanted to reach into the bag of critiques, I mean, sure, there's things that could be added. There's like, for example, in watching this, I'm not exactly sure like what is the logic that the pieces follow when deciding like what moves to make.
Yes.
But like, it's fantastic story.
No.
It sounds like a fantastic jam, and like this looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And there
I have no
is
idea what's going on. I had no idea there were numbers until you pointed them out to me.
Yeah, well, each piece has an attack and a defense, which is also like you can whittle away at a queen and take it with a pawn, but usually it has more defense, so it takes more attacks to take it out and stuff. But there is a tutorial that kind of explains the basics, but I don't go into detail as to like how.
I don't know who reads those. Mark LaCroix
Yeah.
reads those. I don't.
I don't go into detail about like the minutia of the logic for pieces move in a certain way.
Crank it.
Okay, I'm gonna go. Let's see if. Let's start here. Okay.
What is Dale made of? Oh, that's a lot of pawns, dude.
With regard to the like the sort of battle, like determining outcomes, I think that's the thing that was the toughest for me to understand right off the bat, because I'm really just expecting it to be that pieces can take pieces like in chess, and but my guess is that introduces a ton of like that's hard to do right if you wanted to keep that right, because everything's automated.
It's both hard to do right and it's hard to make threats on the board, because a queen can just be taken by a pawn and not really cause a disruption. It's not like a boss fight, which is more or less what it is, I guess.
Right, so it becomes a matter of like who has positioning, who goes first, which is like it is in real chess. But keeping that that dynamic alive, where things are more or less automated, is an interesting challenge. I would recommend like trying to see if you can make that work, because I think that's because then it becomes more than theming. Because so much of it is like so much of it is very intuitive because of what people know about chess, and I think getting that piece in place, I think, would really make it sing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things that I'd love to do to mess around with how the game functions. There's things like where you could like make dead tiles on the black's side, where they have to either get stuck there or they get moved around to avoid that tile, or you could spend your turn manually moving a piece to take a particular piece, or to cover a particular thing, and then the automated moving happens after that.
Right. Like
actually,
spend some material to jump in initiative or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. The the chess pieces are the Arial font, which I didn't know that they had like fairly nice quality, images of chess pieces just right embedded into the font.
Oh, that's interesting. I knew that the chess pieces were there were Unicode characters for them, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know what font implemented them.
Yeah, I really only found Arial. I went through all my fonts, and I think only one other one had chess pieces, and they look kind of gross. So I was just like, yeah, I'll stick with Arial. But another nice thing that you can do is in like the full version of the game or whatever, if I keep working on it, I can have like a piece selector. You're able to just like choose your own pieces or find other ways to bring extra content in there. And the other fun thing with this, and I don't really explore it in the Pawndamonium in this demo of the game, is I can make the board any size I want. So I can make the board like super wide, and that completely changes the dynamic of the game because suddenly you have to protect like twice as many files.
Mm-hmm.
So why did you pick green as your white and other color?
That's what chess.com does. It looked nice.
Oh, okay.
Because if you do white and black, it kind of makes things harder to read. So kind of green
I
and
can
white.
totally see that.
Yeah.
Being harder
So.
to read.
So yeah.
Yeah, can you see me moving slower in this tougher mode?
It does get really hard.
Oh, where should I go?
I really like I think the upgrade mechanic is really interesting because you could upgrade to a queen, but like that's not always the best choice, right? And that's what it implies the strategy. Like the thing about tower defense games is a lot of times even the good ones are just kind of clickers. And I think anything that lets you stop and think, which is just what I like about games in general, can make a what is kind of a tired genre really, really cool. And I think this is like a really, really good way to get there.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, at some point I'm thinking about having like an infinite mode for sure, which is basically what this would be.
Yeah.
But also having a wave mode where you can actually win the game after a certain number of waves, and then you can beat levels, and each level
specific
might have
challenges or something.
Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities to do interesting things.
Oh no!
Uh-oh, are you losing
Yeah,
tiles?
I am losing tiles.
Spend material to unlock a tile that has been locked by a pawn, but again, that also puts you on the back foot again. So I'm not entirely sure how.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's also heal coming up in here. Okay.
Yep, you can heal any piece that is damaged. So if your queen has like 2 health left, you can go and heal the queen back to full health. And yeah. So there's some options. Like I had coded a king which had like 100 attack and 100 health and stuff, and they just kind of go around the board demolishing everything, which was kind of fun. But it didn't really fit within the scope of the game, at least for the demo.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy like how it came out though, and I also am a big fan of puns, which is where the name of the game came from.
Is that also where OST Jam came from?
No. OST just means like original soundtrack. So essentially we're providing a soundtrack to the game jam, and then you're just making the game.
I'm losing so bad.
You got this, Dale.
No, I don't.
This is actually a pretty good illustration of like where where pieces having hit points is like I really want to like I do want to place a pawn to take that queen. I want that so badly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And there's definitely some tuning that needs to be done when it comes to the placeholder text. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
There's definitely some tuning that needs to happen when it comes to the late game, because it does get I don't like games that have the negative feedback loop where if you start losing you're just going to keep losing. Like Monopoly is a big one at that, where I'm just like
I hate Monopoly too.
Yeah. I like saying that Monopoly is a game that takes 20 minutes to play and 3 hours to lose, because that's basically what it is.
League of Legends.
Yeah. So I want to find ways for the player to come back and like have their like triumphant comeback and be like the underdog and all that other stuff. So
Yeah,
there's a lot of opportunities for improvement in this game, but for the moment I'm really proud of it. It's free to download. I can post the link if that's okay. I can post the link in chat for
Oh yeah,
Yes.
spam away.
cool.
Okay, so just some housekeeping stuff. How would somebody get to play the next game if they're interested in it?
Oh well, Dale, what a delightfully posed question. They could just let us know either in chat here, which would be the best way in the Twitch chat, or they could send us a message on the Twin Cities Game Dev Discord. We'll give them permission to join us in the event stage, and they could just chat with us while we're on the show.
Cool. Well, that's good timing because I have to go make dinner. So thank you guys so much for squeezing me in to show this game off. I'm super proud of it. Like for a week worth of work, I'm really proud of how it came together.
Dude, yeah, Ben, it's a delight. You are out there doing exactly what we want to see more of in the world. People creating communities like this and doing awesome stuff. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. You guys take care. Have a good rest of the evening.
Yeah, appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, have a good one.
All right, Dale.
All right, what game is up next?
All right. So next up, we have Bit Culture joining us directly from the chat. I'm gonna see if I can spot this fella in our so I can promote him. Here we go.
Dale, you got to stop moving the mouse.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So
Done.
Bit, whenever you want, you can go over and click event stage in the Discord to hop on. Meanwhile, we have not spotted somebody in the chat who wanted to play this game, so somebody could speak up. Otherwise, Dale or I could give it a shot. Hey, welcome aboard.
I don't know if we made it fully clear, but how to play along with us. We're using Parsec for remote desktop. So you need a Parsec account, and you got to be friends with IDGATC. It's not that complicated. Instructions are in Events Info, the channel in the Twin Cities Game Dev Discord. But if you want to play, you can go ahead and just raise your hand in Twitch chat, and we can walk you through it as well. So if no volunteers the next, say, minute or so, I think we'll have to just deputize one of the hosts to play.
Let Dale play again.
Oh, we're going to let Dale play again. That sounds pretty
I
good.
don't know. Mark, you never play. Do you want to play
Yeah,
something?
that seems fantastic. Are the two high charisma gentlemen that I tried to pull on board. Both are busy at the moment. So yeah, feel free, Dale.
All right.
High charisma is not a requirement.
That's true. We will fill in for you.
Yeah, Dale just happens to fill that.
Yeah. There's never a deficit when Dale's
That's
around.
true.
So.
Yeah, but you do want high charisma and low charisma feedback when you're making a game. For sure.
So what's the next game on the docket, and what's the one after that for people who will be done eating dinner by that time?
Oh boy. Well, okay. So this next game is the one that is going to be the biggest challenge for Mark as a host here because it is a web-only game. Convenient for most people, makes it slightly difficult to stream, but this is a very stylish little beginning to a roguelike. And by the way, Jason, if you want to chat with us, feel free. You are currently muted, just in case you didn't know that. But anyway, it's a game that this gentleman started working on a couple of weeks ago for a jam. Is that right, Bit? Bit still can't hear you for whatever reason.
That would be because it was actually muted in the Discord, I think.
Oh, yep. You always got to check the 3 different ways it can be muted. Hey, welcome aboard.
Yeah, sorry.
Hello.
Thanks.
So tell us about
Hello.
the game jam that you made
It was-
this for.
Yeah, it was Feareth Studio. I think they just did a Great Winter Game Jam. I guess they do it every year, but it was the first time I'd seen it.
Mhm.
But I try to get something done every year, and I have kind of a bigger ongoing project that I'm working on, which isn't this. And it was kind of, it was getting to the end of the year, and there was no way I was going to finish it. So I was like, well, I want to try and do something. And Game Jam is kind of like an obvious solution to that problem because it's you have to do it in this amount of time. So this is what I did for it. But there's a lot to be desired with the instructions, and there's a lot of hidden
Don't worry about
information,
it. I
so-
never read the instructions anyway.
You're gonna have a real hard time.
Well, right now it says press space to begin, so I think I can handle that one.
Both Lane and Dale have control, so whoever gets to it first.
Dale, feel free.
Oh, my
Oh, you snooze, you lose. Oh wait, I guess I snoozed and I lost.
Well, I mean, I guess you could just. I mean, you both have access, so you can both just fight over it if you choose.
my
I'll chill. I just
my
want.
keyboard fell asleep.
If you guys want, this is not a part. These instructions are not part that I really need critique on because they're garbage and they're placeholder. If you want, I can just tell you how this works. That would be better.
We do have the literal game designer here with us, so
yeah. I'm gonna say, okay, there's a green bar up there. You told me it was stamina, and then in the bottom right-hand corner, there is a pixel art of what looks like a fire that is not lit.
Nailed it.
Okay. Great.
You got it in one.
You mean not a fire?
You know what? Just play. Let's see what happens. Because if we swap turns, it's going to be someone else's turn pretty quick. I think.
Okay. So here I am.
Yeah, I died real fast when I played this game.
Oh no, Ooh. That looked bad. Those are animals. Let's get out of here.
Oh, nice. She's got the speedrun strats down, dude.
Okay. Oh, look, there looks like there to be some.
Just bolt through it.
Nice. I'm gonna go down here and be like, "Ooh,
what do those do for you?"
Helpful?
Cool.
I like that I'm making little footprints. I do not like the fact that. Oh no!
Oh my goodness!
Run away! Run away!
Dale, what's happening to you?
I feel like this might be
it.
Hey, it's a roguelike. That's how it works, right?
So press in the direction of an enemy, I think, to swipe at them. Like there's no attack button, right? Is that how it is?
Yeah. So here you're going to be stuck. Hit the space bar.
Okay. Oh, my journey has ended. Okay. I'm gonna do better. Okay. I do not like that my character seems to have a flop of brown hair. Because if I was in this world, I would want to be wearing a hat.
Well, you'll be happy to know. I implemented a character customization, a little mini character customization.
For a game jam game? No way.
I mean, I'm gonna work on this until March. I think I decided.
Run away!
Okay.
Run away!
There's hair and face color and eye color, and you're kind of wearing a little like a fur-lined hood. My plan is to make the character take off the hood when they're inside.
Nope, I can't go that way. Run away! Run away! Run away! I thought I had
so one thing I'm noticing at the moment is that you have a certain amount of units of stamina, and you have that one dividing line. So I can tell when I have, I think, 3 left, but there aren't lines before then. So what was the idea of having that one notch there?
So just for the sake of being a pedantic dev, it tells you in the instructions. It's there to indicate that you have that line is where anything below that you won't have enough to perform an attack.
Oh wow. Okay, I gotcha.
It's key information.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm seeing at the moment is that like I would just love to have like a number or something that tells me how many like action points I have, basically. Just because I can tell already that knowing how far the enemies can move and getting the spacing right so I end my turn at the right place is just the key mechanic here.
Yep, absolutely right. That's exactly it. The reason I didn't do numbers was I think there's 2 reasons. One is like when I thought of the idea, I liked the idea of the physicality of those status effects, like really changing the maximum amount of stamina you had, like visually. I just kind of like the way that looked in my head. And kind of want it to be less about like reading numbers and more about kind of like feeling it. I'm not sure exactly, but that's kind of what was in my head when I designed it.
Well, I mean, I kind of know what you're saying. As someone who hates numbers in video games, it's not, what is it, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there's 10 across? Like, you can just segment, just put vertical lines and segment it in 10 pieces. I think that's good enough. Because then it's not hard to count if you really want to know.
Right. Yeah, you're
If
right.
you got 30 segments, then you got a problem. Then a number is useful.
Yeah.
Right. So typically the mechanic here would be is if you had firewood, you could light that fire and it would heal you up a lot more.
Oh, but I don't. Oh my gosh!
But
It's
you
really wintry. I'm gonna die. There.
Yeah, and you took a cold status effect because of it too. Oh man. So
man.
there's another little addition here, of which you may have been wondering about, all those little things you're picking up.
I assumed that they were flowers and food somehow.
Yeah, right now they're just the 3 inventory items you can get, and that's it. The inventory is pretty bad, but if you hit E if you're playing with your left hand, or right shift if you're playing with your right hand, it'll bring up your inventory.
My inventory is empty.
You can only pick up one of those items at a time, but the 3 of those things do different, or they remove different status effects.
Wonderful.
So you can actually the green one doesn't. It actually recharges your stamina. So without ending your turn, right? So when you end your turn, if an enemy attacks after you end your turn or moves toward you, it builds up that same thing that purple thing just gave you, is that fortification bar. And if you get a shield, the next injury you take will be nerfed by that shield instead, so you won't take it. So if you stay up at the top and hit the space bar, stay out of range, these guys can move 3 spaces and attack. You'll start to accrue the fortification. I don't know, energy. What is that?
yeah, the purple drink.
Yeah, the purple. Exactly right. The purple drink. Now, another thing though is you can only do it once per enemy per screen, so you can't just like sit there and.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So like I said, a lot of this is unclear. It's not in there, and it's kind of impossible to figure out.
I think it's an interesting challenge, because I was playing this earlier when I was setting it up and just trying to see. I did read the instructions because that's my way, but I think even knowing some of the things, I forgot it a lot. Because it's not just that it's
that is with like an actual tutorial that like introduces them over time.
I do think that I'm just gonna like always refer to Slay the Spire for like my way in life, but just like having like the ability to mouse over these different status effects to see what those do would be just so nice.
Yeah.
Well, what I mean to say is I don't know that it's. I mean, if something's complicated or is inscrutable and needs to be told, those are not big problems, frankly, right? I think that this has both, in that there's some non-intuitive elements to like as the stamina runs out, I don't always know, or I can't always intuit how much danger I'm in. And then when an enemy approaches, I don't always know if I can attack them. And even though I sort of can, the tutorial at the beginning, like you say, it's just stand-in for now. But even like being told exactly what it does, I get a lot of clues from the gameplay that kind of makes me forget that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, some of the gameplay is acting counter to what you expected based on the stuff that you read.
Yeah, sort of I think so.
Reinforcing a misunderstanding.
Yeah, that's sort of it. Like you can have you don't have to worry about something being totally intuitive necessarily. Like I think we as game designers get really worried about, because players won't read the instructions.
Right.
But I think the problem isn't if someone needs to be told something explicitly and it's not, can't grasp it from play. That's okay as long as nothing in the play encourages them to forget that or tell them something otherwise. And I think there's a little bit of that going on, but I think that can be solved just through iteration, because you have a lot of systems already, and it might be good to do some testing with fewer of them, and kind of then build them back, if that makes sense.
I think so, yeah.
Because a lot of things interrelate, and your as you move and how you approach enemies, and that's tactics essentially. You even described it sort of as turns, right? As whereas it's a real time game more or less, but you do some of the logic based on how much you can move in an action, right?
Yeah.
And that's interesting, but then combining that with like inventory and stamina and status effects is ultimately what you want. But I think you might want to pare it back and get one of those systems, even knowing the other ones will be added. Because that way you don't have to worry about them interrelating in ways that are unpredictable to you as a designer.
Right, which is I think exactly what happened, because I didn't expect that the actual mechanics of the play would
Can I not
sort
go
of
back in my cave?
give the exact wrong impression, right? Because in my head it all makes sense, right? I've got this full
Oh yeah,
power of cards and
it always
all
makes sense in your
totally
head.
makes sense.
I know exactly what that's.
And I'm
like.
really good at this. I haven't come across a single. I mean, these are all randomly generated, but I haven't come across a single one where I couldn't get through it somehow.
Yeah.
I can play this for 3 hours and it just keeps going. So but then I watch literally anybody else play it, and like, it's maybe 6 to 8 screens tops. It's just like,
Sure.
but it. That's,
Yo, can I give it a try?
Yes, I am going to stop touching
and it is
keyboard.
absolutely because I know exactly how these things work, and I was trying to keep all that stuff in mind while I was doing it, and obviously didn't have time to address all of it.
Stop reading the directions and just press space.
Lane, you can also use a gamepad if you prefer. Is that right?
Maybe. I doubt it.
Oh, I thought I
It might.
Maybe
It might work because I didn't implement it specifically, but I did genericize the input data.
Oh, sure.
Dale, what are you doing?
You're not allowed to read the directions. You should have learned
I definitely think that this whole Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying it may take the default values. It might work. Try like a D-pad and maybe like an A button if it's an Xbox controller. Might work. I haven't tried it.
Well, I can hear Lane's keyboard, so I think he is not bothering.
No, bothering level is very low right now.
Okay.
Are you gonna go get that lobster?
We're getting the lobster, Dale.
So Lane, stay there. Oh, I was gonna say go back up to the top. Never mind.
Sure. Here
I go. I was gonna say over on the left-hand side, like if you go down that little middle path there.
Hold on, I'm trying to use my
don't go all the way
controller.
down.
I can't use my controller now. Thanks for nothing, Mark. Oh wait, there. Now I can. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry. What am I doing?
So I just wanted to illustrate how this works, and this is part of the problem, and this is like one of the main mechanics that like will get you through the game.
Yeah.
Just hit the space bar right now.
Oh.
Or whatever your submit button is, maybe.
So I don't need to keep dancing around. I can just end my turn. Oh, that's great.
Right, and so if you're in cover, quote unquote, in my head,
yes,
no one knows this. It will just refill your stamina. If you do that and enemies move on you or attack you, you will get some of that fortification energy. I don't really know what I'm calling it yet, but
watch out.
So it's kind of a tactical decision, right? So if you go down 1, one of those guys sees you, but you get some of that purple bar up, right?
Move 2 or do they move 3?
And then it's best
I want to do this.
They can move 3 and then attack, but they won't.
Yes.
They'll only attack from cardinal positions, right? So they won't attack if they're.
Oh, get wrecked! Oh wait, oh god, I messed that up. Oh. Okay, purple goes with purple, so we're almost at a fortification. Cool.
So had you had a fortification when he attacked you, the shield would have absorbed the skull and then gone away, and you wouldn't have taken the
out of my game.
I wonder how much this game would be impacted by having sort of like a tactics game where instead of moving, you decide where you're going to move and then commit. That might explain this more turn-based element of the game a little bit quicker, but it also might actually just slow the game down in a way that makes it too slow. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I thought about that almost exact thing, and I'm of two minds about I think the solution I'm going to try.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is just, underneath whichever enemy's turn it is or the player's turn, basically giving it, coloring, like a literal colored grid of like, here's where you can move with like green or whatever, and then red squares indicate you could move to here and attack. something like that. And then for the enemies, also having that information available somehow. So you don't have to like. Not planning on only having one enemy in this, right? So even if you were to memorize how this one thing works, I think it's asking too much for the player to like memorize how all the enemies move.
Sure.
So eventually I'm going to have some kind of indication of like what they're planning, or at least what's possible, so that players can really plan that. Because you're right, it is functionally turn-based, even if it feels less turn-based.
Yeah, I think that the more real time it is, the more I want to be able to do. I want to make use of my abilities now, and so, but it's a very efficient way to do a game that is turn based, by just not making you stop for turns. Like I think that's really clever, but it other than it being taking a little while to figure out, which I think is not really your biggest problem. I think that's solvable. It's really just I kind of don't want it to be turn based. Like when
that was so rude.
But that's kind of what makes it all work, and so you want to make sure that people like that, because it's really cool.
So
yeah,
one of the other things works, by the way, is so nice. I love the visuals. God.
Oh, thanks. Mm-hmm. I probably spent longer on that than I should have actually getting done.
I don't know if you can here. Leonix3 says this animation is super good, and I think he's understating it. I think it's fantastic.
I've actually updated that stuff too since this version.
Oh, I can believe it. Yeah, I feel like this level of polish would be difficult in a game jam, to say the least.
Yeah. Oh, Lane, watching you not find the exit is really a struggle.
Do you know where the exit is, Mark? Oh, okay.
Okay, so.
I mean, this is what happens in the Blizzard.
Yep.
Dude, it's wide out.
I was gonna say,
is there a way to open my inventory and use items? I haven't figured that out.
Yeah, it's E or right shift.
E. Okay, give me some of that zip leaf, brah.
Oh, it's
okay. So right now, if you took the zip leaf, it wouldn't do anything, right?
Oh, why not?
Because your max is so low because it's really night.
Right.
And also
right.
snowing.
Well, good thing I'll get some more right here.
And also,
so here's some more invisible data for you.
Yeah.
With the exception of the first screen after you hit a campsite, you will get one of those little moon icons, which just means you're getting tired. So every time you get to a camp, you're basically always going to have two of those. So you're going to be, even if you took no damage, no blizzard, you didn't get cold, it would still get slightly harder as you went, just because you're going to take two of those every time. So before you use the firewood, the firewood will heal any cold effects. So if you had your entire meter filled with cold effects, it would heal all of them. It will heal 2 of the fatigue effects. So basically, if you were to take no damage and just take the 2 normal fatigue effects between camps, and take any number of cold effects, it would heal all of that.
How do I use this? Do I just walk into the fire? Is that all?
Yeah. Okay. One of the people that play tested it, or was playing it for the jam, had mentioned that they kind of wanted the option to not have to use it, which I understood, because there are some cases where you may not get any firewood on a run between camps, and you might want to save it because you don't necessarily like if you weren't hurt at all, you might not even want to use it.
Wait, now you appear to be in a castle or a dungeon, but it still has those snow crabs.
That's that element of
it's just the one little guy right now, or the one enemy.
Choosing to save your campfire,
skeletons or something in here.
Choosing to save your campfire is like real risk-reward thing that I think is really appealing, because it can be a huge risk. Like, oh, this will give me only a tiny benefit, but if I save it for later, it'll give me a bigger benefit. But it might not. Like, I think that's a really appealing choice for a player.
So when you hit one of the snow crabs, what are you hitting them with? Because I imagine it to be a shovel.
Sure. It's it's an axe. It's supposed to be an axe, but it
goes very
fairly
quickly.
Poorly rendered.
I am imagining it as a shovel because if I was going outside in the winter, I would rather have a shovel to unbury myself from an avalanche.
I mean, I think you could use an axe kind of like a shovel, right?
I think you could too.
Weighted one side. I mean, of course, I'm making an adventure game, so in my head, it's like, oh, you can get an axe, or you can get like 2 daggers, and you can throw them, or like a sword, and it does more damage, But it's like any one of those things is gonna require, at minimum a week or 2 of balancing.
Yeah.
And if I'm saying, this is just gonna be done in March, whatever it is,
Yeah.
I kind of gotta scale back on that. But I would like there to be some kind of ranged attack, something. But it would have to be like,
No
if it
balls.
was a bow and arrow or something, you'd have to run out of arrows because otherwise it's just that's the only thing you would ever do, right?
Yeah. I vote by Snowballer for Snowballer. Then you can make them anytime you're outside and refill your little pouch, but when you're in the castle...
Oh my god, I can moonwalk?
Yes, I actually left that. So I discovered that myself, and I left it on purpose because when you're in the snow, it actually looks better because it looks like you're slipping a little bit. But I didn't, I hadn't actually built the internal stuff yet. So yeah, if you switch it, yep, it's awesome. I mean, and also it's just kind of, clearly it's fun, right? You're just sitting there, like, that's great.
Oh yeah, it gives me something to do on these long hikes. Okay, one thing that occurs to me is, in like Diablo games, you'll like clear a layer, or like you'll clear a cave or something, and then the cave will kind of like light up and become a little bit easier to see. I feel like this this darkness mechanic no longer has a mechanical purpose. I feel like it like exploring the rest of this prison level is a little tedious to like find everything.
Yeah, that's actually a really great point. I hadn't thought about that because in my mind, right, like it's.
Uh-oh. Oopsie.
It's atmospheric, though. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, at the scale of these levels, I think you just honestly, if you just made the light around the character a little larger, then once you do explore around, then you can draw a mental picture in your head. So doesn't need to be full Fog of War where it's revealed, but if it was a little larger just to start with, that wouldn't make it that much easier, say, to avoid enemies or something. But once you get a look around the single screen, it'll be easier to kind of know where everything is. If that am I making any sense?
How cool would it be to be able to push pillars around to be able to like create terrain to your advantage to deal with some type of enemy?
I mean, that might be in there.
Something? Oh no,
not.
No.
Okay.
Well, yeah, another thing I thought about too to address that darkness thing was I absolutely was planning on putting some sort of light sources in there, like glowing flora or something, just to make it less obnoxious.
Castle.
But
this castle is lit. You're absolutely right.
So this is a placeholder to be like outdoor ruins, kind of. Obviously, it just looks like brick. The other stuff.
Am I stocking up to prepare for a boss of some sort?
Uh-oh.
Man, none of this is planned. The computer is telling a story with numbers.
Whoa! Uh-oh. There's like no enemies here. I'm afraid of a big boss coming up.
I mean, it's seriously just all those little. What were you calling them, Dale?
The crabs?
Crabs, snow crabs, yeah.
Yeah, they're like hermit crabs, but with like an ice thing.
I mean, I was calling them ice mites, but I like snow crabs.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Again, there's no indication that these things even have names, or if they're even,
Oh, there's firewood up there.
Nailed it. Top tier firework identification skills, Dale.
Thank you. I'm so good at looking at things and calling them out
Another
loud.
fire.
So good at seeing.
Okay.
I
You
too
do
am good
look
at
very
seeing.
happy when you're walking around.
It's kind of bouncy.
Yeah.
I can tell you exactly why that is, and it might make sense if you want to hear a quick story.
Well, I'm gonna guess that it's because when you are treading in deep snow, you have to lift your legs up really high. What's the real reason?
Oh yeah, it's like so much dumber than that. So, obviously if it's a game jam, I don't have time to do like a bunch of original art. So all this art was taken from another game I had kind of been poking around at. But it was a space game. You were like a little astronaut character, and so that bounce was on purpose because it was supposed to like and it would be slightly less than normal gravity. Like, that's what that was for. So I ended up just kind of, instead of trying to perfect a new animation, I just grabbed that one and, kind of just drew new stuff over it.
All right. Well, is there any last things you'd like to hit? Like any other feedback that you'd like?
I guess the main thing I'm wondering is if you were playing this and it was kind of like it was intuitive and all the other problems were worked out, how long would you want to sit here and actually play this?
So I'm already like in all candor, I am past that point at this point. Yeah, but I would say that like variety is going to be by far the spice of life when it comes to this.
Right.
And like the thing about this sort of a game is that when you add your second enemy, now you have A, and then you have B, and then you have levels that are A plus B. So every enemy that you add like sort of multiplies the amount of like different scenarios in it. And so I would say that like you're not like you don't have to have a ton of enemies, but like you got to have like maybe like 3 or 4 different things. And then I would just stick with this for a long time. Like it's definitely reminds me a little bit of like what it has is like this one enemy, this like snow crab has a sort of like a little dance that you have to learn. And I feel like each new different type of enemy will force me to learn like new dance steps. And then when multiple enemies come, I'll have to like learn something much more complex to deal with all of them. And I would totally look forward to that. That sounds really fun, learning curve.
Cool. And I was planning on making it basically like about a half hour. With kind of exactly the kind of thing you're talking about, where it's like something is introduced in each new like day, quote unquote, like in between camping.
Yep.
And then I think somewhere around a half an hour felt about right to me.
Conspicuous consumption because I don't need it.
Oh boy. Okay. So what's the next game that will be coming up? Just to preview it for everybody. And
yeah. So the little preview, and to make sure that Joey is ready here, Joey, aka Der Raffelmeister in the chat, is bringing us a very interesting concept. I know that he's been working on a rhythm hell for a long time. So this is a bullet hell that you have to like that has some rhythm elements. I'm not sure exactly what he has in store, but it sounds really interesting. I think that the game is currently called Rhythm Hell Groove 'em Up, which is which I quite enjoy.
Yeah.
Bit, did you want to stick around and be our player?
Sure.
Okay,
That's
so
awesome.
I was also going to add, it would be nice to have like a journey or a story in that game. Like,
Yeah, I do.
my
I do
airplane
have
crashed.
have
and I
ideas
gotta
about a story.
Get back to town, or I lost my moose.
Like he had a horse or something that he rode up on there.
Yeah.
It's like it's just like an allegory for like when your car breaks down in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, like like you were riding out on your horse with your sleigh and your jingle bells, and then it ran away because it got spooked by, I don't know, a snow crab or a bear.
The computer I was working
under
for a story was you're actually asleep because you were fighting a boss up in the castle, and they cast a sleep spell on you. So when you finish the game, you like kind of wake up and finish that fight. So you're like making your way down the mountain towards a town, exactly like Dale said. But hey, whatever. I'm not sure if there's going to be time for it, or
I think you can. I mean, you could because you're scoping pretty reasonably. You can really just limit it and make the any narrative elements really also scope down. So it could be maybe you're out camping and then one of them creatures steals your hat, and that's you're just going through, and every fifth level you see the creature with your hat and then leave the screen. So you just
you're just chasing
then it
them.
would
I love
explain
it.
not
That's
having the
actually
hat,
really-
which is important
That's really
for
good.
Dale. So.
Well, I mean, I can make it a magic pendant or something, and it's something that let you like teleport up there. It's still Dale's idea of like your car breaking down, right, or your moose running away, whatever you rode.
Yeah.
Like I like that. That's actually really fun.
All right, Bit, if you want to join us as a player, we'll need you friending us on Parsec. Do you have a Parsec account?
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't actually install it because I knew it was going to be in the browser. But yeah, just don't worry about it. I'll do it. Maybe if I'm on again.
Yeah.
Time, but don't let me waste your time.
How many games have we played versus how many are we going to play tonight?
We have played 3, and we have 2 more.
Okay, so there's this Rhythm Hell Groove 'em Up, and then what's the last one? Just
the last one is the one that Nice Game Club has been working on, which is Roboston.
So
and Bit, I would just say like we are going to be pounding at your door, wanting you to come back at if not in February, certainly in March to see where this game ends up. Mm-hmm. So you join us as a presenter and as a player at that point, and we would be just delighted to see where you're at.
Yeah, that would be awesome. If you pound on my door, though, just make sure you're wearing a mask or whatever.
Will do. You got it. Hey. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So if you were thinking of playing, it's a great idea to download that Parsec now, and the Nice Games Club game is a card game called Roboston.
And that'll be in Tabletop Simulator. So if you want to play with us on that, make sure you've got Tabletop Simulator when we get that started later on. Well, Lane, you're the bullet hell master, so why don't you take the wheel on this one?
Oh, fantastic. Yep, certainly. Of course, if anybody else wants to give it a try, I mean, I'm going to put a little light pressure on Steven here just because I know that he's got some chops as well. Mm-hmm. But okay. Okay. Rhythm Hell Groove 'em Up, Project Alpha Enhanced Edition. Mark, do you know anything about the controls?
I was going to say, you got to get the name right. That's important.
Joey, what can you tell me about the controls? Can I use a like mouse and keyboard, or do I use gamepad?
Yeah, you can use either. I guess which one would you prefer?
Well, it depends on how it works exactly, but
I would recommend a gamepad.
Gamepad. Okay, press the slow button to begin grooving. Slow button is shift or A, most controllers. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so if you're using a controller.
Whoa.
Oh, okay. This is stream delay.
Whoa!
Okay. Right, I'm gonna turn the audio down just a hair.
That's fair. That's very fair.
Okay.
I'm missing the audio balancing section of this development.
Oh, okay. So when I slow, I don't slow time. I slow me. Okay.
Yes.
Ooh, okay. That is key to that. Oh, God. Joey, these patterns are really, really good. I know that you spent a lot of time making so you can get those, and I think that like this is honestly fantastic.
Thank you. Oh man, just trying to get the patterns to be scheduled when I want them to in a somewhat usable way. Oh, took a while. Took longer than expected.
Oh my goodness. Oh, all right. Oh man, and I'm just so happy you've got it's just stuff that's sort of visual screen fillers, so that there's little stuff to do. So it's not trivial to make broad scale motions, but you aren't overwhelming me with stuff to look at. Oh, dang it. So the stress level is about right, because you got these things that focus on me.
Yeah. That's a balance that I'm really I think a lot about when I have been making this, or when I play bullet hell games, is the balance between everything happening on the screen as a whole and visually versus what you as a player are paying attention to, or have to pay attention to, because it's a cool discovery you can make when you're playing a bullet hell shooter, is ooh, what can I discard and not have to pay attention to when I'm playing it, versus what do I actually have to pay attention to.
So, question. Your little character, I would call it a spider, except it doesn't have enough legs, so it's a spider that lost 2 legs.
Exactly. Well, no, if you look above its head, there's two little legs.
The ones that say hello. Have you? Okay.
Yeah.
So off topic, it's have you seen photos of the little peacock spider?
Oh yeah.
It holds its arms like that and does a little dance.
Yeah, that was the inspiration. No, this is just a placeholder that I've been using for all of my games. It's the go-to placeholder for I haven't made main character assets
Uh-huh. So I was wondering, is
Which
the
keep it.
hitbacks on that a rectangle, or is it just the?
Oh, the trails. The tails have collision too. Dang it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I'm
Yes,
trying to
that makes
ask.
Oh yeah, the player. There's just a little dot in the middle.
Is it-
That is your hitbox.
Okay.
So
When
that
you say middle, you mean the center of that image.
Or the center of the
yes,
head.
and I think
The center of the
ideally
image.
you'd be able to see your hitbox. I prefer it when you're able to see your hitbox in these kind of games, but
Okay,
just haven't done that yet.
I really like the colors you chose for this and
Thank you.
the pattern.
Oh, they're super good.
But this looks super hard.
It is. It starts out hard and it stays that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well,
Yeah.
I think that Joey is like making this in sort of the vein of a subgenre of bullet hells that is just like very, very hard, and like you just play it if you're the sort of person who likes to make very small incremental progress.
Yeah, I
Uh-huh.
think I also just need to do a good amount of tweaking. I plan on adding like so far this game is like a 30-second
Shoot.
portion of game.
Yeah, this is a slice of what you would ultimately want to
Exactly.
have many different
Exactly.
patterns and of
Oh.
increasing difficulty and variety, etc.
So what I would love to hear, because I am watching this and obviously not involved in playing this, but I get to hear the same song or the same beginning of the same song a whole lot. So I'm wondering if you could maybe keep the song but change up the instrumentation just so it's a little more variety.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know
so
if
like
you
if
feel-
you
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
like have it play at a different section of the song that maybe has like has the same bass line or something.
Yeah,
That'd be
or
interesting, yeah.
like be like, okay, this is the Woodwinds version.
Different arrangements of the same
This
song.
one is slightly more house.
Ooh, that's actually something that's I've been thinking about. Like, if I were to, keep going with this and think about other songs to do and, coordinate all that, to like pick a song or commission a song or whatever with like different arrangements. Like maybe there's an instrumental version and the vocals version, and just like have those be different.
So you're
like
still
game modes you
practicing
can play,
the
basically.
You're still practicing like the same, patterns, but you're kind of getting a little variety otherwise. I don't know, Lane, you speak to if this is something that you would like to see, or it's so hard you're not paying attention much to the fact that you keep hearing the same thing over and over again.
Different parts of your brain. Oh yeah, no, that I would say that it's gonna affect you as a viewer much more than me, just because like I have so much desire to focus on the
So you're
I think
dots that the music is like useful, but it doesn't annoy me. Though you're right, Dale. I think that I would choose to like move on to like a different level or something if that were possible. If there was a stage select faster, because eventually it's gonna get it's gonna wear on me.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the biggest thing is that just this is probably just too difficult, and so as a player you're just gonna be listening to the same starting section a lot.
If I even had like one of those like bars that shows how long I have to survive to beat something, like that would be so motivating. Just because I'd be like, oh, I was almost halfway or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well, it's thinking about the user interface of it. You could replicate a lot of the stuff from rhythm games, like Guitar Hero Rock Band, where you sort of can sense the progress towards the end, but also like in sections. So like verses and choruses and stuff, and then you can have repeating sections so that players can get into a flow, Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of bullet hell games will have, section A, B, C, and it just goes on, and it gets more interesting and complicated, and combining different elements. But I think there's something about A, B kind of patterns,
Yeah, just like in general, thinking of ways to visualize different like musical techniques, I guess. I want to do something with call and response at some point, because that would just be it's just really fun to like think about the design of and like break down the song into each individual part, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, like a response that the player would do, or a response that like triggers different bullets. Oh shoot!
I was talking like two different like enemy agents doing a call and response,
sweet.
but having some sort of, that's the other thing, is having some sort of like player input that has to be like on the melody or something is something I've thought of, but wasn't sure what I would want that to look like.
Well, I mean, then it's Beat Saber.
Exactly, yeah.
And you want anti-Beat Saber, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so what I've been proceeding with so far is just like all of the like things happening in the game that are reacting to the song being played are not what the player is controlling. It's just like part of the game, and then you as the player are like playing almost next to that, right? Because like if your movements don't really have to be to the beat of the bass line or the melody or anything.
Right, but the more you understand the melody and the bass line, the more you can react to it, even though you don't have to play to it.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's the idea, but I don't know how.
Well, I think cool about there's a thing in there that works really well already.
Is that like you can, because the thing is going to aim at you, you really can use the melody to the beat to your advantage by
exactly.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. When I was playing earlier, that's you start to get, because there's the sort of overall pattern of the black dots and the purple lines. You can start to get a sense of, okay, so it's going to do 1 1 1 2, and so you start to think about like, okay, what section of where should I be when that happens? When should I weave between two tight corridors, and when should I try to aim for the wider spaces? So because there's a couple, you can get yourself in a situation where it's impossible to escape because you've lured yourself into a little triangle shape, and then it fires its burst at you, and it feels like, oh, that's not fair when you play it in a bullet hell game. Like there's no way out of that. Well, you put yourself in that situation more than most bullet hell games do, and I think that, and you can see the results of that as you play. So I think that I feel is like the thing that's particularly unique about this one.
Okay, so a bit of housekeeping. Just want to reiterate how you would join this online, and then what is the parsec name that we need to look for?
Well, Bit just told us his parsec name, but we don't need to know it. Bit, you can go to friends, and you can make friends with IGDA TC, all lowercase, and then I'll see that pop up, and I'll accept your friend request, and then you can get access to this machine.
How do you pronounce that name?
What now? IGDC TC?
Yeah.
IGDATC.
Yeah. IGDA TC.
It just I'm
gonna need to play this on my computer. There's like it's the teeniest bit of lag is just killing me right now.
Oh, you're getting like that that makes it a lot harder.
It's not much. It's not much, but it's a teeny bit unpredictable, and so that's definitely contributing to something.
37 milliseconds of lag, Lane, which is almost enough.
It's when it spikes up to like maybe only 100 milliseconds or something, but it's just
then you're in trouble. Yeah.
But anyway, I gotta say, man, as somebody who like worked on bullet patterns for a long time, like I think that this is so smart, and especially like seeing that you picked this up after like only like a couple months of like working on it. This is a very, very, very smart set of bullet patterns. It's like got me caring about a lot of things. It's got me like the right level of stress, and then stress rise and stress falls, so it feels really good. And then at the same time, like it's not overwhelming at any point. Like yeah, I've died like a million times, but I haven't felt like panic like some games do. I think you really nailed lag is heavy.
Thank you. Yeah, that's something that I was kind of thinking about when choosing which, like, I guess how many different patterns were happening at once, at least for this little cross section here. I eventually settled on 3. And it's the question of like how complex, how many like individual patterns should be happening on the screen at a given time is kind of a question I was asking myself. And of course, it's okay if that number changes, I think, over the course of a game. But like, I don't think I would want it to be where it's like there's always 3+ different patterns that the user has to be accounting for. Because I feel like that might get a little taxing at times. Just like too much, I guess, to pay attention to.
Well, I definitely say that like working on a shooter or a shoot 'em up was probably the biggest proof to me that the like interest curve is just like a not universal maybe, but it's a very applicable phenomenon that you want to have like rising and falling like pressure. And like you want to have like give people a sense of relief and rest, and then dial it back up to another level. So I think that changing around the number of things that you have to think about and have it both rise and fall as you play is so important.
Mm-hmm. And you can do that to the as the song rises and falls too.
Oh my goodness, you got it made. I love it. Cool. All right. Yeah. Any specifics you want to drill down into, or shall we go off to our beautiful Roboston?
Well, Bit just joined us, and so why don't we, as we have our final thoughts on it, and you have control now, so you can go ahead and hit A on your controller or Shift on your keyboard and give it a try before we do move on.
Yeah, sounds good.
That's good. Get to relax a little bit and watch Bit beat it immediately.
First try. Okay, maybe not first try.
What can you tell us about Mr. Sun, Mr. Shining Sun that we're fighting against here? And his pal, the Black Hole?
Oh, yes, there's some deep lore in this game. Mr. Sun likes to rotate around very occasionally and break its animations very occasionally, but it's been behaving quite well.
He's like the sun in Mario 3.
Exactly. This is actually a Mario 3 clone. Nintendo.
I always wanted to play as the spider in that game.
No, now you can.
Well, good. Okay, yeah, keep going with this deep lore, because like I do think it's interesting. You're fighting against like a sun and a black hole, basically, like you and what you're going to be in like a billion years.
Well, that's the really beautiful thing, right? Because like, you think of a sun and the black hole and they're like polar opposites, right? How could they get along? How could they unite or anything, right? But I guess you're just such a significant figure in this galactic tale that it warrants such a degree of cooperation between these two. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really the tale as old as time, the two stars and the spider.
Exactly.
And I posted a link to a picture of that spider I was talking about for people who are interested in spiders.
That's a cutie.
Oh my goodness. I can't tell if I hate it or I love it.
All right, I'm going to have to pull it up here on the stream.
Oh,
see,
raising the roof.
Arms up. Hello, ladies.
Bit, didn't look like you had much luck. And were you having trouble with your controller or something?
Well, he's saying, dang, just a bunch of lag, so he must be hit by it worse than I am.
Oof.
So it goes sometimes, unfortunately. But if you want to load up Tabletop Simulator, we can get in on the next game. It is I don't know, Steven, you're in chat. What do you think? 3 or 4 players? Waiting patiently for the response. Waiting extremely patiently for the response. We did 4, so that. Okay. All right. So who we got?
Oh, me.
Okay, and we're not going to be any Parsec, so I'm kicking you all off Parsec now.
All right.
And go ahead and load up Tabletop Simulator. And I guess anybody who's got Tabletop Simulator who's watching can join in, because I will let you know the...
Well, I was going to say, maybe you want to run Parsec or run Tabletop Simulator through Parsec so that somebody can play your player seat at the table?
That's true, because Tabletop Simulator is a game that costs money. So if anybody wants to join in my seat, that's perfectly cool. Just pipe up.
Free.
But otherwise, we have at least 3 players if we're counting Dale, myself, and Lane. And if Joy or Bit wants to join us as well and has Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah, I can join in.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
So that's 4. I would ideally like to sit out myself, but it's not as big a deal as with the video game, I don't think.
Okay, so whoever said yes, do you have Tabletop Simulator, or are you going to be playing via Parsec?
No, I think Joey and I both have
Okay.
Tabletop.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, this up on the stream, I've got the server name and the very secret password for it. And I will create the server. The server name is TC Playtest. The server password is Roboston.
Great question from Steven there in the chat. If you want to hit that, Rafflemeister.
How the bullets firing being detected by the rhythm? As in, like, is there some sort of way to like translate the rhythm of the song into like timings? I think is what you mean. If that is your question, the answer is no. That's all manual. I actually put a lot of work into making it so that the process of manually inputting what happens at different parts of the song is as untedious as possible. It's still kind of tedious, but less so than it originally was. That'd be really cool to do some sort of like auto-generated equivalent thing, though. But difficult.
Yeah, because the more you can make automated, the easier it is to make a game.
Exactly.
All right, so
I'm just cleaning up after our last session. Don't mind me.
Dude, it's so weird that it censors the letters CP, so TC Playtest looks like it has a swear word in it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
All right.
So do we have all 4 players? Joey, Lane.
We have
Sorry,
3.
I missed. What's the name of this lobby?
TC Playtest.
Go with Jermaine. Am I jumping in?
Ooh, this looks so cool.
And what's the password?
Roboston. R-O Boston.
Boston. I have a unique talent of never hearing when people say the lobby name and password the first time. Really quite impressive.
Amazing. I hope you're donating your body to science.
Oh, you're right. It did censor that. T swear word latest.
Is there a swear word in the middle there that we're not noticing?
There is, yes.
Oh, okay.
What?
Oh, we don't need to elaborate, I imagine.
Okay, I missed it then.
All right, so this is Roboston. The way it works is, I forget. Let me pull up the rules for the game. This is for Nice Games Club, our game dev podcast. We have been we're on hiatus over winter. We take 2 months during the winter to give ourselves a break, do some reruns, and work on a project together. And so this year we're working on this game, which we started as a game jam for the show. We do these 1-hour game jams called Nice Games Jam, and where we do a game in an hour. And sometimes they're tabletop games, sometimes they're design documents for video games. But basically it's 1 hour or maybe a little bit more. And then the game's got to be finished, and we want to play test it during the show. So they're pretty tightly constrained jams. This one started out as it, and like all game jams that we've all been part of, once you do it, you're like, oh, we really got something here. Let's keep working on it. And so in this case, we decided to actually take a real go at it over our hiatus. So we've been meeting every week, and we've been while the show is in reruns, we've been recording our sessions as we work on it, because everything's virtual now. So we just hit record when we're talking on Discord. And we've been putting those on our Patreon page. So if you want to see a little bit more of the nitty gritty as to how the actual minute-to-minute designing a board game, patreon.com/nicegamesclub. And that's the only pitch I'll make for that. But we, of course, are at a place now where we feel like we could play test it. It's pretty rough. There's parts missing, so I'm going to be hand-holding you through. It's more prototypey than it is first playable.
So talk to me, what's this chess piece hanging out?
That is the leader token. So a lot of board games have this, where like the first player gets a special token that sits in front of them, and we have that as well. Although the rules for us are not one person is leader for the whole game, so it's not like a token you pass around every round like it is in other types of things. And that's one of the things as we design it, we got to think about how do we present that kind of stuff? Like, how much information do we ask the players to keep in their head versus how much do we provide trinkets and tokens and stuff to visualize it? How necessary is some of that stuff? So playtesting is going to help us with a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pull up the rules document, which is somewhere. Okay, here we go. All right, so so the way Roboston works is that everybody gets a hand of cards, and those cards are components for the robot. And you can see here on the robot parts, you can see the slots for those components, which is where so basically your main action per turn is to place a card to build the robot, and you want to give it a certain amount of stats, and you want to help build the different parts, and there are different options for these in order to complete the objective. So it's a co-op game, and everybody works together to build the robot, and then at the end you take on the objective. And so the final game will have a number of objectives in it. For now, we've just been playtesting one that Ellen put together for us, and so the way we'll start, and I guess I'll just explain it as we go, is we roll dice or draw cards from who will be the leader. So we've got ourselves a 10-sided die here. So you right-click that and roll. Everybody does that one at a time. I got an 8.
Okay. Got a 10.
Ooh.
I got a 1.
And a 7. Okay, so Lane is the leader, and leadership is not something you ask for; it's something that's thrust upon you. That's a theme for this game. So, Lane, as the leader, you deal everybody 5 cards.
Oh boy, I hope I can know how to do that quickly. Deal.
I think you just right-click the deck and.
Oh, sweet! 5 cards.
Yep.
Ooh.
Oh, that's an awesome animation.
So I'll explain what the cards are. Folks watching the stream can see my hand. The battery icon is power. The processor icon, it's a green wafer-looking thing, that is processing. And the blue hex grid thing, kind of force field-looking deal, that is plating, so armor, basically. And these are the types of stats that the robot will have. Power, processing, plating. If you have a question mark card in your hand, these are called peripherals, and they go in these pink slots. They don't do anything now, as you see. They're just blank if you happen to have one in your hand. Eventually they will have different functionality, like being able to reuse a slot or change what goes in it or yada yada. But right now they're not designed, so they're just dead weight in your hand right now. So don't worry about them. They have a mechanical function in that they're dead weight. So that's kind of interesting.
Okay.
But that's not, again, the final design will be different ultimately. They're sort of special. They'll be special cards. The final card option, it's an orange gear, and that is the joint card, and that you put on in these spots here in order to add a part to the robot. So if you see each of these parts that you add to the torso, we start with the torso and you build out. Each of these parts has a cost for what you need to build that part of the robot, and that cost is based on what the robot currently has. So as you build the robot, you put your choice of what to put down depends on what kind of arm you're going for. And so the final game will have like a reference card so you can see what all the different parts cost rather than having to dig through these maths. But if you flip them, they all have different sides and different qualifications. So some of them are easier to get. These are the heads. There's 4 heads, 3 left arms, 3 right arms, etc. There will also be multiple torsos, but right now we don't have a mechanic for how you pick the torso, and so we only have 1 in the game right now. There's a turn limit, and that's the constraint you have is you could just keep building the robot forever till it's powerful enough to take on the objective, but you want to get the robot built before the turn limit, and that each objective in the game will have a different turn limit. So one might be, build a powerful robot really, really quickly, and so you try to be as efficient as possible. Other times the objective is it leans into another way, gives you a lot of time to do it, or and we haven't figured out a lot of that. That's content we haven't put in the game yet.
Yep.
When it's time to place a joint card, the person who plays the joint card gets to pick which part to attach. Arms can only you can only place arms on shoulders, and you only put legs on hips. So you don't have a ton of options. But what you do have is you choose how to pay for it. So in the case of this left arm, or right arm if I'm the robot, it costs 2 power and 1 processing. So that's points, not cards. So if you put down a card that's 3 power points and a card that's 3 processing points, and there's nothing else on the robot, you would have to, in order to pay for this, you'd have to flip both those cards over, and that's what pays for it. So then they stay face down on the robot after that.
So you've overpaid in that example?
Yes, right. And
Okay.
sometimes you need to do that, right? Depending on what's in the sort of the bank of the robot. And
that consumes that slot. That slot can't be used for something else in the future.
That's right. And so that mechanic in particular is something we came up with at the very end of our session last week. So this will be the first time we test it out. So that's going to be kind of interesting, I think. And then what's left over, what you have not flipped over, that is what you use to pay or to toward the final objective. In this case, the final objective is just a single round D&D fight with another evil robot. And the idea is that you build the robot, you don't fight the battle. So the battle is automated, but you still roll a die to see. So there's still some tension there. When we get there, we'll describe it. But for now, your motivation is really just to make the robot as powerful as possible. There's a lot of pieces of the game in terms of like when you would want to play a weaker card, or there are negative value cards. But we don't have any player justification for that right now. So again, those are also dead weight in your hand. So those have a dynamic in this version of the game, but ultimately there will be strategic reasons to play negative point values. We just don't have that implemented yet. So lots of rough edges so far. So that's the overview. So we've got the 5 cards in our hand. The leader goes first, and the other element of this game that is something to think about, but because we're just testing dynamics here, the gameplay is not final. Every character is going to have a special role. So the leader, their role is leader, and their goal is to have the robot complete its objective. At the beginning of the game, you would shuffle roles and you distribute them apart from the leader, and those roles are kept secret. So it's a co-op game, but you do have a secondary objective. We are not going to have that for this round, but that should explain a little bit why some of the like the competitive aspects or keeping your cards secret. There's no motivation for that right now because we don't have our secret roles, but that's ultimately what we're going to be building into it. It's up to the leader is trying to get everyone to work together. But if I'm a character, say, called the Warmonger, which is one we had in a previous playtest, a previous version of the game, I want the robot to be as powerful as possible, to have the most amount of batteries, to have the strongest robot. I don't care about a balanced robot. So I want to complete the objective, plus I want it to have more power than processing or something like that. And so my goal is to do a lot of that. Now the leader doesn't want that because, one, I'm going to be wasting time laying down cards that put the robot at risk of failing the objective. So there should be some table talk in terms of trying to get everyone to cooperate. We're not going to have a lot of that because a lot of the player motivations are not built in yet. So we're mostly just going to be trying out the mechanics and also how it feels to place a card, how easy it is to understand how powerful the robot is at any one time. So a lot of this is UX testing and less about the gameplay. But I am super open to any kind of feedback of any part, even if it doesn't make a lot of sense for the things we've already decided. Don't worry, even though laid out a lot of caveats. Just any feedback is good feedback. So why don't we go ahead and get started? And the first thing we do is the leader would draw a scenario card, but we only have one, so I will have to find this in our notes. Which Steven's in chat. He can tell me where to find the scenario card because I can't see it anywhere.
Piece of UX. I'm sure this is something you're already considering, but I just wanted to voice it just in case. Which is there is definitely some appeal, some cuteness to having all the attributes start with the same letter. But I totally am a person who very much remembers things based on the letter that they start with, and so I already have completely forgotten what the 4 attributes are. I think there's power is one of them.
Okay. Steven has told me it's one of the tabs in the docs scenarios. Okay, thank you, Steven. Yes, Lane, that does make a lot of sense. I think when we were talking about it, we kind of were like, oh, we like it, but we know it's got pitfalls. I think we're on the side of liking it, but I think we could probably be talked into changing it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, we'll see. Like once we're like 30 minutes into the game, if we still have that issue, then it's a problem.
Yeah, and I doubt you're alone in that thinking. All right, let's see. Okay, scenario 1. Oh, you know what? Let's do scenario 2. Why not? Steven, Ellen's not here to stop me.
It's true.
Scenario 2, runaway train.
Oh, no.
It just keeps speeding up.
Shoot.
You have 6 turns to complete the tasks.
Oh my goodness.
And so once the robot is built, we need to attach a chain to the train. We need to stop the train from moving, and we need to shut off the engines. And each of those are a different die roll. The attaching the train is a processing check. The stopping the train from moving is a power check, and the shutting off the engines is another processing check. So plating is less important here. Again, all this is wildly unbalanced. But basically, that's what we've got.
And green is processing, right?
Green is processing. That's correct.
Okay, fantastic.
All right. So I believe we could probably get started. I don't think I'm missing any notes just yet.
Okay. One last question, which is about these beautiful bolts. What do the bolts do?
The
washers.
Yes, those are the joint cards. So you can only play them when you want to put a new robot part on the robot.
And I see that this has a cost of 2 yellows and 1 green. Okay, but you need at least one of those washers to when you do that.
Yep. And so basically, whoever plays the joint gets to choose the part. And this is another part of the co-op part, is that the leader is going to try to say, hey, everyone, this is the one we want, but someone could overrule it if they play the joint card, right? So everyone has agency to help build the robot, but the more we communicate, the better, more likely we are to complete the objective. Now, as wildly unbalanced as everything is, it probably is not going to matter that much, but let's just pretend it does and test out some of the dynamics here.
Sounds good. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and play my little yellow 3 right there.
Okay.
All right, and then do you draw from the deck?
Then you draw from the deck once you pull.
Do I draw another card at any point?
You do when you always have 5 in your hand. Now, if you don't want to play anything, you can discard 3 cards and draw 3. But you don't get to place a card that round.
Okay, I dig it.
So if your hand is just full of dead weight, that's an option.
And do we have to build all of the robot parts?
I don't think we settled on that, but it makes a lot of sense. So I would say yes, the robot needs to have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head, and it can have as many weapons. There are 2 weapons here that we have, and they go at the end of the arm. Those are optional.
Okay, the weapons are optional. Cool.
Battery.
Okay, so I'm thinking I don't have much like stat stuff in my hand. I do have this gear, so I think I might just want to use this gear right away.
Oh yeah, are we allowed to talk about like what's in our hand?
Oh yeah, I guess.
No. That's a question we've been having. I think yes, you are allowed to talk about it, but in the final game, you will have your secret roles, and so there'll be reasons for you to obfuscate a little bit. But we haven't quite figured that out. So I would say it does kind of. I would say it's perfectly fine to hint, but just for the purposes of this, let's role play that you have a reason not to say what's in your hand.
Sure.
But of course, the final game will have no restrictions on what you're allowed to say.
Okay.
And it could be like a bluff that aspects going on there too. I'm
Exactly
guessing.
right. Yeah. So this one you actually cannot place this head because it requires 3 power and 2 plating.
So
Oh, hold
you
on.
can
Okay, this is the
replace
one I
that
meant to-
head. Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
You can't. That's right.
Okay.
And the final, we'll have the tabletop simulator has this ability to snap things into place.
Ooh, yeah.
But we don't have that yet, so.
Okay.
So it is
You can
now.
lock them if you
Now
hit
it is
L when you're
Mark's
hovering
Now
over
it's
them.
my turn. All
What's
right.
that? What's it do? Oh,
But you
lock.
can lock them by hitting L over when you're
Oh,
hovering
nice.
over them. Mm-hmm.
Well,
This guy's a TPS pro.
Oh yeah.
see, I'm going to discard some cards
Whoa.
and draw 3 more.
Because I am watching you do this on a tabletop simulator, so I know exactly what you have in your hand.
Wait, what?
I'm watching the stream,
Oh, you're watching the stream.
not the tabletop simulator.
I
sorry.
see. Okay.
So I know what you.
Dale
have
is a
here.
card peeker. That's.
I can't help it if you put it on the internet that I'm watching.
Yeah, but you don't. You can close that tab.
I
Okay, I will just play my little processor.
have to read the jokes, like the one about Soul Asylum driving this train.
Yeah. I'll say I had that same thought when we were designing it. When I think Ellen or Steven came up with the scenario, I was like, never coming back.
I did not have that because I was too busy thinking about superheroes. Okay. So, Lane's turn now?
So it's
Oh, did
Lane's
we-
turn. So
Did
that
we whip
is
around the table that fast? No, I played my processor.
Oh.
okay. So this is the start of the second turn.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that Mark switched the thing.
Oh, and what do the question marks do? Or should I call them the punctuation cards?
Those are peripheral cards. So in the final game, they will be kind of special cards, and they go in the pink slots.
I see.
And they would, for example, be like adjacent cards get double value, or maybe one of those cards can be placed on top of another one to open the slot up again. Right now, they do nothing,
Oh, sure.
so they're just dead weight in your hand for the moment. But eventually, they will
Okay.
be sort of special cards that do special things.
Gotcha. All right, cool. I missed that. Punctuation cards?
All right. We'll put one here.
Do we need some sort of a tracker to determine like what turn we're on?
Yes, ultimately that would be a good idea. Especially the turns go slow enough that you could like okay, well, it's round 2 versus round 3. It's like how hard is that to count? Well, when there's a lot of time between, like even though all we do is lay cards, it's very easy to lose track of it. So yeah, we would definitely want to have something
Well,
like
since
that.
we
can
only have 6 go rounds.
I thought that when we designed it, that was 6 die rolls.
no.
And we can, oh, okay.
I mean,
Wait a sec.
things are in flux, but yeah, the idea is we need to have a limited amount of turns. Now, 6 may be too few. I think one of the things we're thinking about is like, are there too many slots on this robot, for example? But basically, if we get to 6 and we don't build the robot, we can keep going because again, we're just testing how the game feels, to move cards around and stuff.
Right.
But it's supposed to put some time pressure on you, and it's supposed to take some of those individual goals, like having the most of a certain thing, and it's supposed to temper that a little bit because everyone wants the robot to succeed.
Mark, do we have any word on what is the target number that we have to hit for our processing and power?
So the way it works that Ellen and Steven designed is that it's you take the total value of the thing for a check. You take the total value, divide it in half, and then that's a plus modifier to a die roll.
Okay.
And then I think the way we had it before, it was like there was opposed rolls. Again, a lot of this is undeveloped. Basically just as many as possible is really all we have to go on right now because it's not. I can give you a number, but it's not going to be that useful.
Okay, but what is the event like with this train? Do we have any idea what is the target that we have to hit with our roll?
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't have that number, so we can come up with one arbitrarily. But let's say we need to get a 7 for that first task, and then a 5 for the second task. And the first task is a processing one, and the second one is a power one.
Okay, good enough for me. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put on a cheap arm here.
All right, sounds good. I am going to add to this thing that we don't need. Oops. Moving it around.
Oops.
Like a dope.
I should lock this in place here.
How? I don't know how to rotate that. I'm just going to set that down.
I got it.
Somebody
It's all right.
else is going to do it.
Yep.
Because that will help us pay for more expensive things down the
Oh,
line.
that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there's some expensive blue stuff that we can
Right.
get.
So this mission, this objective has no plating. The tasks don't require a high plate score,
Yeah,
but
so
but you need to build the parts with that. So there's some, you know,
This gun is so good for us, this one, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so expensive on blue.
Yeah, and we've been thinking about the tools that you put at the end of the robot arms. Like, should they have slots just like it's another arm, or should they just be? Should they be special in some other way? We don't want to bury the game in mechanics or stats. So again, a lot of this is you kind of just have to imagine it all makes sense.
Oh, Steven is tossing out some numbers here. So we have first task processing roll is 7, and then second task is power 9, processing 9, third task processing 10. And these are just like back to back, or can we execute the tasks at any point?
So the way this is written is that we were thinking of the objective part at the end would have like multiple, like the 6 turns described here would be 6 D&D battles, right, or 6 rounds. But then when we were working this week, we decided we wanted to have that be a lot simpler because that just takes too long. And so I'm saying, just for the purposes of this, Steven describes it like an extended task in Star Trek Adventures. I'm saying for our purposes here, it's just that we get one attempt at each of the 3 tasks in sequence.
Whose turn is it?
You have to do the first one, and it takes 1 turn. Oh, so does that mean that like on my turn, I could choose to do
just
one
took
of
my
the
turn.
tasks?
No. The robot has to do these things. So once the robot is built, then the leader can roll the die for the robot. But then you get because the idea is that the robot does the task, so the player is not really involved. The player just rolls the die and sees if it happens. So it has to go kind of quickly because we're not giving the player a lot of agency in that moment. And this is why I've been kind of cagey about it, because it's still, as we've written it, it has a much more of a D&D kind of flavor, and we wanted to pare it down a little bit from that.
Okay.
Also, the numbers are kind of high, and I think we were thinking of giving you multiple shots at it. But we want you to feel like once you've built the robot, that you have a good idea of how likely you are to beat the task. But we didn't want to have it that you succeed or fail once you're done with building the robot. We just want you to have some shot at it. And so that's why there's a die roll involved. Because the more stats you put on the robot, the more likely it is to complete the task. But you could get a lucky roll if you want to take a risk. And that's the case for like the secret rolls. Like if I want to like unbalance the robot so I can win my secondary objective, then I'm taking a risk that the robot won't complete the main task.
Make it dramatic. Maybe you will win, maybe you won't.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So a robot turn is completely outside of the player turns.
It's the second round. It's the second part of the game. Yeah, once the robot is built, we send it off to go do the task. And
whose turn is it right now?
is it my turn?
I don't know whose turn it is. Yeah, I think
it is your
Place that
turn. Yeah.
awesome link.
Okay, cool. Let's see. I will place a power card right here in the elbow pit because that's where all the power on this robot resides.
yeah.
Mm.
And so
Okay,
this is the start of our 4th turn.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh man, this leg is super expensive. Oh, that's not even the right leg. Wait a second. We literally do not have any option to complete the game. We just because we don't have a right leg.
That's okay. Just pretend it's a right leg.
Okay.
It's walking like an
Use the
Egyptian.
sword instead.
We'll just connect it like this. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Alrighty.
Ultimately, they're not all the. There's a couple pieces missing from the game, so.
I thought we
Yeah.
had both legs.
Okay, so I guess this requires.
I think
either
the
a
right
lot of-
leg is on the other side of this card, probably.
Oh, you did balance
Right.
it that way.
There's 3 left legs and one right leg, I think, in the current pieces. So that's obviously not finished.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I wish I knew more about the relative frequency of cards. I think it's right for me to get rid of these and draw 3.
Yeah, I can let you know because we do have that in a chart somewhere.
Okay, I am going to.
Okay, I'm happy with that.
A smart knee.
Hey, big brain.
A smart robot.
Oh.
Goodness, galaxy brain robot.
There are 72 cards, and there are 16, I believe, of each type of stat.
Okay.
And of those 16, 4 of them are worth 3, 4 of them are worth -1, and then 8 of them are worth 1. And then after that, there are, I think, there are 10 peripheral, the question mark cards, and then there are, I think, 14 joint cards. The joint cards, even in the final game, will start to become dead weight once you've attached all the parts. But we also wanted to make sure that at no point did no player have a joint card in their hand.
Nice, yeah.
For example, have not had a joint card at all, so I've never had that ability. But I kind of like that. But I know that they're common enough that they're out there. You know what I mean?
How many joint cards total did you say they were?
14.
14. Okay.
Of the 72 cards.
Yeah. So you have to rely on other people making the right moves. Has a little bit of the groove vibe.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Is it my turn again?
Yes, it is.
Okay. If something's not happening, it means it's my turn. I always forget to draw cards.
Have you considered allowing there to be weird mix-matched robots, putting parts in different places? Maybe if there's a roll.
Ideally, that
happen.
Like 4 arms and 2 heads, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's something.
That was something that I think we really early on we wanted, but ultimately the physicality of these these mats makes it kind of difficult. One thing I thought would be nice is having an extra joint card, or some arms have an extra joint on the other side of the thing, so you could play another arm like this.
Oh yeah, nice.
But ultimately it has to be physically probable. You know what I mean? And it has to, and it's difficult to know, right? That's part of what this sort of user testing is about. Is one thing we learned really early on, even when we were just testing them on ourselves, is knowing how much these things cost, having to flip through them, is not if you have these physical things on a real card table, it's not going to be fun. So we need a reference card for that. What all the parts cost,
Okay.
Mark,
did you go?
I did not go, but I drew a joint card, so I'm going to see if I can pay for something fun. Let's see.
I do like the kind of almost risk reward, I want to call it. Decision making process of I know that there's going to be those two processor checks at the end of the game, so I don't want to spend processors, but I'm looking at the limbs that cost processors. I'm maybe I do just want to use one of those now, or maybe I want to wait to see if I can do the other side that requires less processing.
Yeah. I'm looking at these now, and right now anything we pay for is going to have some waste involved.
Yeah. Are there any 2 cards in the game? Or just 1 and 3?
Oh, it's just 1 and 3. Yeah. And
okay.
I think that was just kind of for the sake of there being fewer choices to make and less math to do. But I'm not sure how effective a solution that is to that problem. All right, I'm going to just play a card then. I will play.
I guess it just seems a little I would expect there to be 2 cards, I guess, going in.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Those are excellent.
All right, so then this is the start of our 5th turn.
Okie doke. Let's see.
We got to build a leg and an arm.
Yeah. All right. So the leggy eggs here. Ooh, this is expensive of stuff we like, and that requires blue, more blue than we have. And then this is the cheap arm, which requires a green. We could totally do that.
Yeah, I think we go cheap. But we only have 3 of green. Is the problem?
So let's see. I'm just gonna go for the afford that leg option and just plunk this guy down.
All right.
So this is the one we're going for?
Think so.
Cool.
Okay, this leg, which has 3 and 3.
It has 2 and 2. So we'll be losing a 3 of this, and that's also one of the reasons why we don't have 2s, is so you have to make these choices more often.
Okay, but do we also want an arm that makes sense?
it's better than an arm that doesn't.
Okay, is there an arm that makes sense?
There's a cheap arm, but we're gonna have to pay 3 for that because all we've got.
Okay.
This one we can pay for, but we still have to do a 3. But we can get 2 power and 1 plating. So this one's reasonable.
Okay.
If anybody has if anyone wants to play a single processor card, that might be useful.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of those, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna play this arm then.
Okay.
Wait, that has one and one. No, that doesn't make sense.
We can afford it.
We can afford it, but I would be wasting green, which is really important.
Yeah, but ultimately we're gonna have to.
Oh, because nobody has that single.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to do it again for this leg.
Oh, Mark, maybe you should draw a card and then tell us if nobody has that single.
Well, I'm just a draw card. Yeah. No, I am. No, I'm no help.
Okay.
I'm also no help.
I'm also no help.
Okay, so
Yeah, so I guess that's something we should have talked about early, like who has what.
Yeah, I do have plenty of gears in my
Oh, yeah,
hands.
plenty of gears. Oh, that's actually great because I am gearless.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I played a single processor.
Ooh, I like
or
that. Let's see,
single
where's the...
shielding?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is what we wanted, right?
Oh, this is good because now we don't have to pay for that. Although we don't need this in the final battle, but.
Oh, that's true. But
you
what's
know.
the other side look like? Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to spend those blues. We got too many.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it doesn't really matter which ones I spend.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
spend the green. Cool.
Okay.
Oh, I should put a gear on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know, actually seeing the robot with the 2 left feet like this, it's actually not that bad. It's because so the weapons here, the weapons are, I designed them to be sort of, even though they're not symmetrical, I designed them to make sense in either hand. This is obviously just sketches for now. It'll be a lot nicer, but I think the legs might work fine for that too. Frankly,
Yeah.
Yep.
the arms I don't want to do that for. I think
the connectors aren't slanted.
Exactly right. That would just require those to be straightened. But
All right, Mark, you want to play a card?
sure, I could do that. I can place this arm now because I have a joint. And was this the one we were gonna go for?
Is that the only option we have?
Yeah.
We also have this one.
Green.
Yeah, they both cost 1 green, which is the problem.
I have a 1 green in my hand that I could play next turn if we want to hold off on that.
Yeah, that's a good
that'd be
idea.
cool.
Okay.
I could place it.
All
Or Dale
right, then
could.
I will do something. And so this is the part where spaces start getting scarce. Like there's now nowhere left to place a power card.
Yeah,
Oh no, there is. Sorry,
is
down
one.
here. It was off screen for me. That's funny.
Cool.
Okay.
Is this turn 5 or turn 6 that
This is turn 6 now.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna give some more power.
Now I have a gear, and I'll be the last player to go. So maybe I should put that arm down.
I have a
Do we
gear as
need
well,
a
and
second arm?
nothing that will help us.
Okay.
So if you don't have anything either, I guess it doesn't matter. Did you just go, Dale?
I did. I placed
Yeah.
a single power.
Okay.
Because that's what I had.
Wee-hoo. All right, I guess we do this then. Cool.
Okay. All right. So I will place a peripheral card that does literally nothing except it's the heart of the robot. Because all I had was a negative value. That's one of the things we were thinking about is if you have negative cards in your hand, why would you play them? And right now we have systems that develop that promise, but nothing's in it right now. And one of the things that might be nice is if you're forced to play it. But our rules don't force you to do it right now. Just something to think about. Because right now it's just like these are dead weight, just like these are. And that actually seems to work okay, but ultimately the final game won't have those same dynamics. All right, so that is our 6 rounds. So now we can count up. Well, let's do this first task, which I think because originally we were designing it, we'd have multiple shots at it. I'm going to just on the fly reduce the demand here. So it says we need a processing roll of above 7. Let's say we need it above 6 instead. So it's Stephen. What was it? Round up or round down? I think it was round down. So this is we add 1 to our roll.
Oh.
So as the leader, go ahead and roll that die.
Okay. Yep.
Steven says round down! Exclamation
Single
point.
processor
Oh
who's
my
gonna have to
goodness.
pull a lot of work.
Okay. So we have a total of +2 or +1.
+1. So we need a 5 or better.
Oh man. Oh boy. Well, good luck me. Roll.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 10.
Oh, we got
Hey.
that.
Yay!
Okay. All right.
D6.
We did it. All right.
second.
Next task is we need to stop the train from moving. That's a power roll. It needs to be more than 9. So let's say more than 7, and a processing roll. Let's not have a processing roll. So a power roll 7. Let's say 7 or greater.
Okay.
And
We
so
got-
our modifier is pretty good. So we have 6,
Plus
7, 8. No, okay. So +5.
Yeah,
Oh.
+5. Dang, dude. All right. Well, watch me land that 1. Ooh, what we nailed. Got it.
Oh.
Nice. So this is the kind of case where like you should feel really confident in a roll like that, and like if you play well, you should feel confident in all your rolls. Hopefully, with a mix of maybe 1 or 2 dangerous ones. The third task here is to shut off the engines, and that's a processing roll of better than 10. So
That's because you got to hack the engine.
let's say better than 7. So that's better. So we need a 7 or better because we have a
Oh, we
+1.
have +1. We just need the last 6 to complete our matching set. Let's go. Oof. Oh, yes!
Oh.
What?
You said 7, right? So we had to get more than 7? Is that true?
Let's just say we did it. Hooray, team!
You meant better than 6.
Yeah. So at this point in the game, there's two. One of the things we talked about was that if you like, we don't have a lot of processing, right? So that's a really dangerous thing for the team. Now we would all have secret roles that we were trying to win, but the secret roles also have their own modifiers. And if I think that the risk is too great, and I have my let's say I'm playing for high processing for my team or for the team, or for some goal that I think I could get, but I won't be able to get it if the team doesn't win. I can spend my roll card to add more to the roll, and then I lose my ability to win my secondary condition, but I get to help out the team. So that was a fun idea we had a couple weeks ago. And once we get the roll cards in place, I really want to see how well that works, because that last roll was such a high risk that would really motivate a player to like give up their secondary roll, which is sort of thematically appropriate for what we're trying to, the sort of co-op stuff we're trying to do for this game. But also, you could be like, you know what? I really want that secondary goal. I'm going to withhold my extra bonus. And if the team loses and I reveal I had that ability, then there's a lot of going around the table, you know?
Then there's the situation where like you're about to do the roll and it's going to be a tough roll, and you kind of all look at each other and go like, all right, who's gonna sacrifice their ability?
Right? Who's got it in their pocket? And everyone has to be like, not me. Sorry, I can't help you. Right?
Yeah.
And of course, then you find out later if they could or not. And so everyone gets so part of the things that I know that I want from this game is I want individual players to make their own risk reward assessments, right? Because a lot of co-op games tend to have, I know Steven is really concerned about this, like a captain at the table who just tells everyone what to do. And so we want the game to avoid that mechanically. And so by giving everybody their own agency, that is independent of the team and independent of other players, should ensure that they always have motivations of their own. But the agency that they have does affect the team outcome. And so whether that works or not, I don't think we've been able to test here just yet. But I will say it's been nice to see some of the things that we wanted play out, even with the rules kind of a third in place. But now I want to hear it. Let's hear how it went.
The tricky bit for that kind of thing is you're going to need to come up with some sort of like inter-game scoring system that takes into account like multiple events in order to give people some incentive to weigh completing the team objective versus completing their own objective.
Elaborate.
Sure. Like, why do I care about my personal objective, and why do I care about the team objective? Like, what do I get from doing both of those things?
I mean, I'm not sure what you mean other than like winning the game.
Yeah. So if I complete both, if the team wins,
yeah,
and I do my objective, and I'm the only one to do my objective, then do I win?
Yeah, so the team completes the thing, and then you also win on top of it. It's kind of like you get your MVP.
I see. Is the goal of the game to be the MVP?
Yes, basically. Except the goal of the leader is for no one to be the MVP, right?
The goal of the leader is for no one to be the MVP. I see. What leverage does the leader have to get people to not?
The leader has one important thing that wasn't relevant here because there's no motivations in play. But the leader can choose to end the game early. So so if the leader thinks that the robot is ready, they don't want to spend another turn with all these yahoos throwing in their own individual unbalanced cards to change the outcome in their favor. And also, and then the leader also takes a risk. They say, okay, the robot's ready, but we could really use another round or two of extra stuff. But if I let these jokers do what they want to do, then I'm not going to win my personal goal, which is that no one should be MVP. And so I'm gonna hit the red button, and robot goes out now for the battle. And so maybe that's the risk the leader takes, that maybe the team won't win in service of their individual goal, which is that no one should be the MVP.
Right. Okay. Now I gotta say, like, okay, so the leader wins if no one else achieves their goal, because that's their goal, for no one to be the MVP.
Yeah.
I see.
Still have the robot
But yeah, nobody wins at all unless the robot completes the objective. We did have a saboteur role, but we kind of thought that we'd then everyone would just wonder who the saboteur is, even if it's not always in play. And we liked it a lot when we were first coming up with the game, but we don't want it to be werewolf. So everyone wants the robot to win.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I suppose that if I am from the perspective of a player who is not the leader, my like side objective is way more important to me than my team objective, because the side objective is the only one that changes the differential between my performance and anybody else's.
Right.
So
and
in terms of a competitive perspective, like, I should put everything into that and nothing into the team. And so I feel as though there may need to be some sort of leverage that the leader or other players have on me to prevent me from just solely focusing on my objective.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
so
what
we learned that Lane is heartless and does not care about the city of Boston.
So
from designing this kind of game a little bit in the past, like there is a majority of players, I think, based on my experience, that you need to have like a material reason for them to not just do the differential success thing,
right?
Which
and
is
so
like the
goal,
selfish play.
The burden we have then is we need to make going for your individual goal. One, if I lay my cards out, so to speak, and everybody knows what I'm going for, then they can start trying to stop me, right? They can start filling in those slots with weaker cards. They can start playing negative values.
They can start buying limbs that use all your cards.
Yeah, that don't leverage. Yeah, they can spend to buy a limb. They could spend the things that would have helped me. So I want to keep my. I want to keep my role secret.
The other players figuring out then what you're trying to do.
So I want to keep my role secret, but on top of that, the more even if I can get away with it, the more I go for my own role. And this is I'm just assuming this is going to happen, but we're going to have to see how good we can balance this. The more I go for my role, the more turns I spend pouring into my attempt, whether it's just the most stats or maybe my role is that everything's exactly the same value. Yeah. Like, I don't know. We can have we have a bunch of different ideas in the hopper, but the more I go for that, it should have a negative impact on the potential for the robot to complete its objective.
Yes.
So that I am always personally struggling with which to go for based on my assessment of risk. And so it's the leader in all the table talk where the leader sets the standard by saying, like, how much risk should we take, right? And then the other players can either, so the part of the co-op thematic stuff for this, and where I want the game to sort of elevate past just being a well-balanced design thing, is to actually like the leader has to do leadership things, but the player doesn't have to be a leader. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, it doesn't require them to have leadership skills, but the things they do mechanically are the things that require that bring everybody in line, right?
Sure. Okay, I've got a comment about bringing people into line.
Yeah.
Which is, so one thing in this type of game, because I have in playing this, I have 6 actions, right? I get to do 6 things. I get to play 6 cards, and the thing is, if any actions that I take to sabotage, like, let's say Joey, if I want Joey, like, if I see what Joey's doing and I want to try him to make him not win, because he is one of my 3 opponents, what tends to happen in this sort of a game is, if I could choose to benefit myself or hurt him, benefiting myself is like 3 times as good as hurting him, because he's 1/3 of my opponents.
Sure.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too.
So
if
what I was
it were
gonna say,
a 2-player game, then maybe that would be a lot more enticing.
Exactly. So what I was gonna suggest is, one thing that would be kind of cool is if there were any spaces on the board or any cards in your hand that let you, like, let's say, both play one here, but then as a function of playing a card there, I would also get to junk a place of my choice. That would be basically a free action that I could do to punish somebody if I've detected their strategy. That would allow me to, like, not get in my own way at all.
Yeah, and this is where we're like player count is something that we like, especially if you, like, it's 6 rounds. Well, what if you have 20 players? Like, you know, the game rules do not prevent that right now.
Right.
So, you know, what if you do want to have a 3-player versus 5-player? Like, presumably a game like this needs to have some variability in the amount of players that can play. You know, to be something you could put on a store shelf. And so we need to figure out how to make that work, because that, you're right, that does change the dynamics of, like, how useful my action is to thwart another player, in terms of, like, on balance then helping me. And I think that's just a case, frankly, that's Steven's problem, because he's the numbers guy. Making sure that, like, the things you do have, like, the impact, and so that the choices you make, there isn't always just an obvious choice to make, if that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah. I would just say, like, look for ways to interact with other players, helping or hurting other players, without and like, I think that there's probably some room to say a move that helps another player if you think that they're particularly trustworthy for some reason. But, like, look for ways to interact with other players that don't cost you anything on your path to your own advancement, because, like, usually the way these things will work out is, especially this is true with the more players you have, the more players you have, more incentive you have to just concentrate on yourself.
Yeah. And so that's part of why I want it to be that the more you just concentrate on yourself, the more likely it is that the team will lose. So that thwarting other players is not something, it's not a first order activity, right? Like, if someone's really running away with it, then it's worth you sacrificing some of your gains to stop them. But for the most part, I think people should be focusing first on the team goal, but always wanting to make selfish choices. But I want those selfish choices to be risky. You know? So, like, I don't mind if players are only focusing on their own. Like, if everyone's just pouring into their own goal, then I want the team to lose. I don't necessarily care if players don't feel the motivation to stop each other, because that's going to be the job of table talk, right? Now, whether we can pull that off or not is a separate question.
Yeah.
And you're always going to be limited by the cards in your hands and the spaces on the table that are currently open.
Yeah. So you have to convince others to play things in coordination with you. And so if you end up going for your own thing instead, then it's tricky, because like, do we have 10 cards in your hand and 15 turns so that you have more opportunities to do things? But then then on the flip side, does that become tedious? Do we go the opposite way in where you have limited opportunity to do anything, and anything you do is really, really risky, but then there's only so many things that are worth the risk? I don't know that we don't really have the answers to that just yet.
Yeah, I guess that'd be an important thing to try to figure out, and a difficult thing to figure out is like what exactly you want the number of cards in your hand to be versus like the distribution of like junk cards to useful cards and stuff.
Yeah, and like with you know, the junk cards, like obviously the joints have a function of both costing something and adding more slots. But those peripheral question mark cards are probably going to have a function too that is probably good. You know, like maybe it is, you know, place this card and remove another card, or, you know, like it's like that little Lego take apart tool, or you get to pull something out, or, you know, or you increase power and double the value of some card, or...
Yeah, this might be ultimately what, Lane, when you're saying, like, play a card and get a free action, this is just me personally, and I don't know what Stephen and Ellen feel about this, but I want the players' their options to be simple, but but for the complexity to come from context. So I think so the idea of like playing a card and getting a free like that feels, it's not really that complicated, but it just feels like I don't like the way that feels necessarily. But doing a similar thing could be accomplished by you play a peripheral card, and that's the category of card that can do things like that. So your card, its action is to move one card to another card, or it's to make this slot a wild card slot, or it has like big impact that can be worth wasting your turn on it, because it can add to your goal and thwart somebody else's, without there being more than one thing that happens, I guess.
Yeah, that could totally work. As long as they can impact other people in large ways and in ways that benefit you. One thing that I thought would be particularly interesting, by the way, is if you had like these negative cards here.
Yeah.
One thing in this kind of a game is that if you kind of like look at the moment the actions in the game, it's basically you want to take the actions that maximize the amount of large numbers that you have on your hardest tasks. And that is going to, I think, potentially lead to a very simple play pattern that's pretty easy to figure out. I think. I mean, I haven't seen what the player roles are yet. So what I was wondering is if you had something. I'm not exactly sure how this would work basically, but like if you had something where it was like a -1, but what that entitles me to do is that like on each player's turn they can like cycle a blue card for free because there is a -1 on the table. So it increases our economy a little bit. The idea being that like now with a feature like that, we're able to like sacrifice some power on one dimension to gain power on another dimension. So it adds a little bit of like interest on how to best approach your tasks given the amount of time available.
I don't know if I totally understand what you mean by increase the economy of it. Like what is it? So you play a negative card or a card that does this, that has this function, and what happens exactly?
So it increases the our economy as a team in some way. So what like a like negative card would do here, one possibility is if I have a negative blue card on the table, what that entitles me to do on my turn is each turn as a free action you could like discard a blue card, and so that's like a little bonus. Like that would just be like text on this blue card, and so it would mean that like we are decreasing our team's like value in order to like and we would probably do this early on. And that would give us like increase our flow of laying more powerful cards.
Oh, I see. Okay. So, I mean, this is ultimately like, this is kind of what peripheral cards are for, is to be kind of special Easter eggy kind of things. And I think the question is like, how many of them do we want? And they should be, I don't want any passive effects necessarily, because then that's stuff you got to keep track of. But I don't mind a card that you lay down and something wacky happens, but then it's resolved. You know what I mean? Like maybe you lay a card and then everybody has the opportunity to swap their hand if they want to or not. You know, but then it happens and it's done. And that slot is taken up by the peripheral or whatever. So there's some risk reward there.
Okay.
But I don't know if I want to keep track of like what more than how many of each stat is in play and how many turns you've done. I don't know that I want anyone to have to keep anything in their head necessarily.
Interesting. Okay, I think that you'll find that that's going to be very, very limiting.
I mean, that's okay. Like, this game is not intended to be super deep.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hey guys, I think I gotta head out, but thanks for having me.
Well, that's excellent timing because we're just about wrapped up for tonight's festivities. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joey.
See you guys later.
Yeah, later.
See you. So, I'm housekeeping again. I was gonna say, so when does Playtest happen next? Since I'm very bad at calendars.
Roughly a month from now is the best I can tell
it's going to be on the 17th of February.
Okay. Sounds good.
Is our very next one. But before then, please join us for the MN VR meeting, which is, I think, on the very next week, Wednesday here on the 23rd.
On the 27th.
Oh, on the 27th. Okay.
And then the game dev meeting will be on the 10th of February. And then, as Lane was saying, the 17th is our next Twin Cities playtest.
Fantastic.
Well, we are a couple minutes earlier than 9, but what do you say we, rather than take it all the way to the end, why don't we say goodnight? Is there any final thoughts we have before we bounce?
Well, I do want to say, like I have said like some suggestions and some negative stuff here. Overall, though, I think it's extremely solid. I think that the images and I think that the actions in this game, like the simplicity that you're talking about, Mark, comes through. It really shines. I like that. I definitely am the sort of person who's going to want to add like complexity to basically anything. And so definitely, I like the skepticism that you provide, because the simplicity of this is a huge bonus to it. I just think that like it depends on how many like different scenarios you want to have, whether it needs any of that like passive like complexity. But it depends on your scope.
Yeah, and it depends too. Like if this is a game where you play it with friends over and over again. I mean, the idea is that simplicity you will never run out of scenarios, because there's enough complexity just in terms of card placement, and it's always fun to be in that pickle of like needing to get that arm in place. But it might be that you do it 3 times, you're like, I got the full of this game, I never need to play it again. In which case, that additional complexity would provide the novelty that would allow you to pull it out for some new people. You know what I mean?
I do.
Because there are some games I know that you're like, oh, I love that game, but like I don't have the energy to introduce it to people, and because I'm done with it, you know. And I mean, maybe that's okay, you know. Maybe that's, like I said, like there's a cost to keeping it simple, which is that it doesn't get to be novel. It doesn't get to have endless variety, and like that's okay. But like, how okay is it? You know, finding that balance is going to be, and you know, like I'm here presenting it and saying my thoughts, but this is a team effort with Ellen and Steven as well, and we've been mostly on the same page for a lot of things, but. Part of that is because we're doing the brainstorming together, and so we kind of like synthesize a thought in the room together, so to speak, even though we're working virtually, and we don't do a lot of thinking about it outside of the sessions we're doing every week. But I think
sure, Mister, I designed all the mats.
I did. I drew them all. I drew every blue angle on this thing. Yeah.
Heartwarming.
It's like it's not quite white boxed, but I wanted, especially for playing in tabletop, I wanted something that was a little bit. This is nowhere near final art, obviously, but just to get a little bit closer, so it would feel like a real game, at least in a sense. You could cross your eyes and imagine it.
And I love that you can try to do the spinning around of the gun and then holstering it, and almost get it.
Oh, I was thinking you were thinking like this way to the sandwich shop. you know.
Beautiful.
Well, look at us. We're 30 seconds before 9 o'clock. So before we actually go over, Dale, why don't you go ahead and give us your closing catchphrase?
Live long and prosper.